right, we're on our way to sit down with Brian Crowder. He's done a ton of things for the sport compact community. Made it, anything from rods to engine components, and I'm excited to really sit down and tell his story. I know all his parts, but I don't actually know a ton about him as a man and what drives him. So it's going to be fun to sit down and talk to him. And I think we're here. What's happening?
How you doing?
Good to see you. Looking for Brian.
Yeah,
I'll cruise in there. He's waiting for me.
Yeah.
Thank you much.
What's up?
What's up?
How you doing?
I'm ready to go. Good to see you, man.
You too.
Yeah.
We'll shoot some of the camp.
What's up, dude?
There you go. We'll see you.
Good to see you.
Working away, man. Excuse
Yeah,
me.
man.
Parts everywhere.
No worries.
We got a K-series set up in the grinder.
Perfect. K's the way.
So we can make some sparks and do all that, but
I love it.
shoot back in there and
It's the whole feeling about just raw horsepower under your foot. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
And we are recording. Yeah. All right, welcome to another episode of Burning Tires. It is a Buscast. I'm your host, Greg Leone, and we have a special guest today. I'm actually very pleased to sit down with Brian Crowder of Brian Crowder.
I hate the redundancy, but how to use the name, you know?
Well, you came from Crowder,
right?
You know, so it's a lineage, right?
Correct. And we still have a little piece of Crowder when my dad passed away, so still have a little involvement of the domestic V8 side of things. No input, but
right.
We're getting into the LS market for our stuff, so it makes sense to kind of tie into that history of V8 lineage and things like that. So
yeah.
But that's where we got the chops from the sport compact side was. Basically Eddie Kim, Dynamic Autosports, was calling.
Shout out to Eddie Kim right there.
Way, probably, I want to say late 90s, and ordering a lot of titanium retainers for some 5.5 millimeter valve stem. We didn't know. He was just ordering 2,500 at a time. Then he moved on to connecting rods, and then got to talking to him, and he said, hey, this market could get pretty big. And here we are, probably 30 years later.
30 years later, yeah.
25 years later.
Yeah.
Still doing the same things. I mean, I get the people asking, hey, what's the electric car going to do to you? And I say, nothing.
Nothing.
Like, what do you mean nothing? I say, well, all the engines we're doing are 25 years old.
Right.
So it doesn't phase us at all.
People are still going to race.
Right. Yeah. Well, that and the new stuff. I mean, we do the B58s and the Supras and L15Bs and the Civics and the new Subaru F24 is coming out.
Yeah, right.
So there's still markets, and basically what we look for is anything anything factory turbo
Right.
is a good indicator that that'll be the performance or the hot rod version of that car. So
Yeah, you're going to support it because people are going to modify it and want to boost it and increase.
And the problem with the newer stuff is they're getting really complicated.
Right.
You know, there's just a lot of moving parts, and you know, it's not a 2J where you just put in cams and buckets and set lash and you're off and running.
Right.
So
They're doing direct injection. They're doing a lot of crazy stuff with engines.
yeah,
these days.
there's third and fourth cams for valve actuation, and you know, it's just like I said, it's doable. It's just a lot more R&D, but happy to see that the newer stuff. I mean, B58, it came out in 2016 in the 7 Series BMW.
Right.
And that's considered the first gen, and we sold nothing.
Really?
No rods, no pistons. You know, somebody with a 7 Series is
Not going to
they're
touch
not,
their car.
They're not thinking stroker kit. As soon as the B58 got put in the Supra,
Right.
now we can keep the strokers in stock, and you know, obviously selling rods and pistons and things like that for on stock stroke stuff. But
It's different clientele. Yeah.
Different,
It's a good motor too, right? That's like a.
I mean, my wife has. We're on her second 7 Series, and I get to drive it every once in a while, and the thing scoots. You know, it's a engine wise, it's a good piece, and it's something that we can, you know, obviously get into performance wise and have confidence that you know, it's the blocks are going to hold to at least 1,200 horsepower. I mean, they're going past that, and I think, you know, I know Dart's coming out with a cast iron 2J block, which is great.
Yeah. Right.
You know, probably 10 years too late, but whatever. You know, at least they're doing it.
Because the billets are out. I know the billets are out.
Right.
They've been out for a while.
Yeah, it's just the billet gets into a price point, and you know, are guys that are, yeah, of course, you know, the grasses, you know, the guys that are making big power in 2Js, you know, I'm talking like over 2,000, you know, 2,500. Those guys are candidates for that. You know, 99% of the world.
Yeah.
The stock cast iron block is great. It's just they're going to dry up at some point.
Yeah, and the price point on just blocks is insane right now.
Yeah. No, if you would have been smart if in the late 90s you were just scooping them all up.
Right.
Because
yeah, I'm like still sitting on 3 of them, I think.
Oh, very good.
Like two VVTIs and a non-VVTI.
right. And that's the, you know, we were getting into the BMW market, and you know, I talked to 10 different BMW guys, and I say, what's the popular engine? They all give me a different answer, and I say, look, what I want is I want the 2J of the BMW.
Right.
And you know, again, it's
like N54.
N54 is a good one. Then you got the old school guys that are the M50s, and then, you know, do we count the B58 as a BMW? I think so, but are they going to be BMWs? Not really.
No.
So, but yeah, 2J is great.
Yeah.
But you know, we do analytics on our site, and every month we look at, and our site's broken up into engines, so we can easily see who's clicking on what, and always number one. Guess what would be the number one engine that people click on? You know, we got 35 different sport compact engines on there, but
K series or K20.
close. Go
Okay.
earlier.
Oh, B series.
B series V-Type.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, the engine combines B18 and B16, so, or B18C and B16A. So, you know, it's kind of a 2-for-1, but always, and you know,
that's wild. Yeah, the Honda market is still strong.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
Even though it died, it's still strong. Like, so you were a part of you were going before the 08 crash, right? When everything crashed in 08.
Well, I did one better. I actually separated from Crowder in 06.
Okay.
So yeah, 2 years later the world was going to end. But I learned that there's probably 3 things in that are recession proof, and it's booze, girls, or chasing the opposite sex,
right.
or I guess today any sex, and horsepower.
Horsepower, yeah.
You know, and I think you know, you listen to the media and they think you know, I don't know. I guess negative news is what they want to push, but you know, I keep hearing recession.
Right.
And so it's putting a little damper on some things that we got planned, and you know, interest rates aren't as favorable as they were a couple years ago, so you got that. But
people are still racing.
People will always race,
Right.
and you know, in racing, it separates. This is not, you know, of course we have. I don't know if I should use this word, but we have street guys and
No, streets okay.
you know, which is a limited modification, and then you got the race guys, and you know, the race guys are going to race, and they've developed budgets to be able to do that, and I mean, you know, it's nice that there's a lot of racers that we deal with that I've dealt with for over 20 years,
Right.
you know, and so they're still racing, you know, whether it's the drift races, the drag races, you know, off-road stuff, you know, the racers are going to race, and it's a, you know, it's going to cost money,
Yeah.
you know, and so you want to go fast. I mean, it's literally money is horsepower.
Right.
The more money you can put into it, the faster you're going to go.
Right.
You know?
That's an old saying,
It
right?
is.
Yeah.
It is. You know, that and the no replacement for displacement. So
Well, there is. It's called the turbo. It's
well,
called more boost, right?
That, but we want the torque to spool the turbo up faster. You know, and so stroker kits are a big thing. You know, you do get the guys that you know are freaking out about rod to stroke, and you know, we don't go nuts, and it's gone in a like 2J, for example. We went from 86 stock to 94,
Right.
and now it seems, I mean, a lot of 94 still,
Right.
but a lot of people are gravitating towards 90s, you know, and kind of splitting the difference. And so
Right.
you get kind of, because they still want the RPM.
Yeah, they don't want to lose
but they want the spool up. They want the low end torque that the stroke provides.
Yeah.
So, you know, so that's why we offer a few different strokes in a variety of engines.
Right.
You know,
So we breeze kind of by street racing, and then how is that as a manufacturer in talking about even contending with that world, because it exists and people buy product, but how do you support it without supporting it, kind of thing? It's like, 'cause that's the position, right?
You it's kind of the don't ask, don't tell kind of thing, where you know, the elephant in the room is the EPA,
Right.
You know, and
Always.
so, you know, you talk to guys, the real street guys, for example, you know, big into the 2J scene, sport compact scene, they're getting into firearm and that kind of deal, and making parts for that market. And I'm like, well, that seems like it's and to preface it, they got a knock on the door from the EPA, and so it kind of freaked them out a little bit.
Right.
And I mean, I hope this is public knowledge, but anyway, they're getting into the firearms, and I asked a couple of, you know, that seems like it's a lot.
Seems
more,
like harder than motor.
It seems
sports
like a lot
parts,
more
yeah.
heat on firearms than it would be on, you know, cams or smog related stuff, and they say no, ATF has rules.
Right.
You have to follow this, and this, and the EPA is arbitrary, where they say, well, you decertified a certified car.
Right.
Okay, well, what does that mean? Well,
Yeah, it's objective.
it's very objective, very subjective,
Yeah.
and I mean, is changing wheels and tires? Are we getting down to that?
You're putting a larger diameter.
You know,
and
to say you're decertifying a certified car is a very wide berth of interpretation. So, you know, yeah, you know, but we've done, you know, and we're working on EO numbers, and you know, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
Not that a lot of customers ask for it, but I think it's important to develop some stuff that is, if the future is selling cams, then you need to play by the rules, and so we're cognizant of that, and we want to work with them and do that. But I mean, racing is a whole different deal. In talking about the street market, yeah, you know, we try and have drop-in parts that deliver. You know, I mean, horsepower is also a subjective. You know, but 25 horsepower with a set of drop-in cams, with mild tune and not a lot of other modifications required.
That's still, you can still smog the car or whatever. It still
Right.
have some play,
Right.
have a little more pep, and still have like a compliance car.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's that part. But
It's,
you
yeah,
know,
it's-
mostly we look at the sales, and it's there's the stage shoes are probably the most popular because also they work with stock valve springs.
Right.
That's a big ask for somebody to try and pull their head and put springs and retainers in when they're not looking for go to the moon. But the street market is a big market. We obviously we don't endorse the street racing and all that goes on, but I think the track days and things like that are good to be able to take out your WRX and hot lap
go
it or
play,
your your Integra or whatever you're running and have fun with the on a professional level, so to speak. And I mean, I see it on the freeways and
people are still going to street race.
It is.
No matter what you do, no matter what the EPA does.
If you're going to do it, just do it away from.
What do you think about takeovers? What do you think about that? That's a question I've been asking a lot of our, because we, obviously I grew up street racing,
right,
and we did it in a relatively controlled environment for the most part, but we were dumb kids at the same time. You know what I mean? And so, but like you see what's happening in takeovers.
Well, I think if you did it kind of more like the street outlaw way, where you're out there away from everybody else, more or less deserted roads and stuff like that. But when you say takeover, you mean? I mean
in cities where they're taking over intersections and closing down the freeway and stuff like that.
I don't agree with any of that. But I honestly think it's a bad reflection on the industry.
Right.
So you don't. Is it a form of protest? I mean, it's just I just that do it. Just don't get in people's way.
That's an interesting perspective. Like, is it a form of protest? Right.
I don't know what they're protesting except to get us shut down. So, that there's a time and place, and in the middle of an intersection is not the place to hot rod your car.
Yeah.
I mean that's my. That's just my point of view.
I'm interested to see where it's going, because we all started on streets. All of us, all the people I'm talking to, Lisa Kubo, Myles Bautista, all the people I'm talking to, they all started street
Absolutely.
racing.
No,
because it wasn't a thing, right? Sport compact drag racing wasn't a thing. This is before Battle of the Imports, before any of that stuff. And so now you have something that's kind of a phenomenon in its own. It's getting press and publicity, and where's it going to? I'm like looking at it like, where's this going to go? Like, this has to go somewhere. If it's big, it's big enough.
Well,
to where,
and I think for a while there was more of a trend to, at least in the JDM side of things, was to turn your car more into a drifter, where you could drift at night in the FedEx parking lot.
Yeah.
Kind of out of the way of everybody.
Parking lot pimping.
And that, that's obviously safer. But I mean, guys want to go fast, and it's just, and
it's going to happen.
The side-by-side market is interesting because you can do that, and off-road's kind of the wild west, and so you can kind of get out there and do that. And it's for, if you wanted a really badass side-by-side, $50,000 to get you into it, and then now you're out there and you're in a 5-point restraint roll cage. You're stupid if you're not wearing a helmet.
And you can go play.
You can go out. You can go out there and have a good time and
you support that. You support that market too.
We're getting into that market, and it's interesting.
What vehicles?
Like Craftworks is getting into that market. So some of the old school, like Dave Sue, he's getting into that market. He's got a supercharger and stuff like that. So, that's an interesting dynamic. And so. There's avenues to get out there and kind of show your stuff but I don't think the middle of an intersection is the place to do it.
Right. Yeah.
So that's
and
I mean, I don't think that's political to say that.
I don't think
you
it
never
is,
know nowadays. But
so let's rewind it a little bit. Let's talk about what, like, you getting into this industry. I mean, you were I
have kind of a different background in that. So I went to San Diego State and was business and marketing, and then that's when the Mac came out, and the whole Quark and Photoshop, and I was on the cutting edge of that. Like, we were first in the industry to do our whole catalog digitally, to start doing all of our ads digitally, and I got into that, but then the first time doing the catalog, because think about it, it's basically 200 pages of cam specs,
right?
And some wording and part numbers and chart, that and so it seems cool, like, oh, you're designing this. No, basically what you're doing is your data entry, right. Because I was the one who spearheaded, so I was the one who had to do it. It was new, nobody else knew how to do it. So that kind of burned me out on that aspect, and then but I would still do it, and it was part of my job.
And you're how old at this point, roughly?
Well, so I graduated. So I graduated high school. Date myself. Graduated high school '84. Went 2 years. Got my GE at San Diego State. Then didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Right.
Went down to Crower. Worked down there. That's when I realized, hey, they need marketing. They need that kind of. That dealing with, back then it was Peterson Publishing, Hot Rod, Carcraft, all that, dealing with that, which was cool. I was like a 20-year-old kid that got to go on the yachts and go sport fishing with on the Sea Rod with all the editors and publishers of all the old school magazines that don't I know Hot Rod and they exist, but they don't exist like they used to.
They don't. Yeah, print media is
and
kind of dead.
That's I'm more of a. Obviously you've graduated to using the internet because there really isn't, but I have catalogs on my desk that I use from other companies. I don't go on their site. I'm still kind of a tangible. I want to touch it and hold it. So we get PRI magazine every month, or I get it, and that's the one magazine I go through, and I'll just leaf through it, see who's running ads. They'll have a story in there. But so anyway, dealing with all that, and then that's kind of when the Honda thing kind of came along.
Right.
It was it was mid 90s, and none of our tech guys, I could hear them, because I put myself down in the tech, so I wanted to hear what was going on, and it was all Ford, Chevy, Ford pushrod engines, the racing stuff, and I kept hearing our tech guys say, we don't do anything for Hondas. Bye. We don't do anything. They were old school V8 guys, so I heard the rice rocket and all the derogatory terms that they get, and I'm talking to my dad, and I'm like, hey, a rod's a rod and a retainer's a retainer, and why are we not doing this stuff? And we were doing this, working with Eddie, and he says, if you want to do it, you do it.
Right.
And so we did it, and that was when we had just started a relationship with this cam manufacturer, and they were interested in doing new stuff. And the Honda B Series is a really complex cam. That little pad on that rocker that Honda came out with is magic.
Right.
It's a unobtainium alloy that only works with the Honda core or a chilled cast core. Anything steel in it, thing will wear out in 30 seconds. And we went round and round testing stuff, and we had this source, and so he said, hey, we'll get into it with the B Series, and that's how it took off. And then Eddie was Eddie Kim was B Series, and then sniffing, I was not stupid. You start looking around, you're like, oh, well, there's the 2J, there's the SR20, there's the 4G63, there's the EJ series. So basically we just got into all of it at the same time, and built it up to where it, by 04, it was maybe 30% of the sales, which was pretty good. And but imagine this is Crower is a company that was started in 1955. All the pushrod motors are like single cam, so it's one cam core. And then here I come along, and we're doing, obviously all the twin cams, 4 cam Subarus,
quad cam Subis,
so the bookkeepers were having a fit about inventory, even though it was all moving. It was a lot at once, and so this thing kind of played out till about 06.
Right.
And then it was kind of like, I got the vibe. We don't want to do this market anymore.
Wow.
It's there's the inventory thing was one thing, but there was a lot of still, like, we'd go to PRI, we go to the PRI show, and it would be all Chevy stuff. I was told, you could bring your Honda stuff, but you got to keep it underneath in the cupboards, or in the cabinet.
Wow.
And if somebody wants to see it, you can take it out. And so I played that game, and it was just kind of like,
that sucks.
Well, it's kind of stupid. It's like a drug deal, Hey, you want to check out this Honda B Series rod? Come with me.
Hey, come back here around the
right,
corner.
We're gonna go around the corner.
I got B Series
I got
rods.
my trench coat full of
hanging with different rod specs.
So I mean, but anyway, the market was taking off.
But it was making 40%. It was the 40% of the revenue for the company, roughly.
I mean, I would say. I mean, I
30.
never broke it down, but the sales were everybody thought JE Pistons and Crowder rods were owned by one person or one company,
right?
Because that's what you had to have.
Right.
If you didn't have Crowder rods and JE Pistons, you were fucking up the deal.
Right.
You're definitely fucking up your build. So
yeah,
and
that was my first rod, was Crowder,
right? Yeah. And that market was. So yeah, I mean, 30%. It was
high enough to be where you shouldn't shove stuff in cupboards at PRI.
Yeah, but remember in 2000, through 2005, was PRI that show? Right. I thought so. I mean, I've always been under the assumption that horsepower is horsepower. You make horsepower. I mean, if you made 20 more horsepower for your lawnmower engine. Good. Let's talk about it. What'd you do?
Right.
And so in that same attitude as with the side by side, everybody's like, 2-cylinder Polaris.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're breaking cranks at 270 horsepower.
Yeah.
So let's get in there. And now we've got cars. We've got Razors that are making 600, easy 400. And if you put something out there on social media and say there's we can make this 2-cylinder turbo Razor go 400 reliably. I mean, belts are another issue, with the CVT clutch, but we can do it reliably 400 to the engine, and I'll get 200 comments. Half of them are like, liar.
Right. Wow.
So
once you prove it, you'll never stop.
Well, we've proven it, and I'm not in a pissing contest on social media and just let that shit go. But the point is everybody thought, and it wasn't possible 2 years ago. Right. But so horsepower is horsepower, and that was my attitude at PRI. It was a performance racing trade show, know, and so let's do the performance for all of it. But I think having I just think it wasn't mixing, and I think a lot of the V8 customers were just kind of like, and all it takes is 3 of them to be like, really, you got overhead twin cam stuff here,
right? It's that old guard. Yeah,
it is the old guard, and but that's all changed. Every PRI has become, just horsepower, and it's a great show, and SEMA I think would not be for us. SEMA used to be, you go to SEMA and you get the international crowd, right? Because they all want to go to Vegas, and so that would be worth a week in Vegas.
Yeah, SEMA's a little different now.
But now especially with the internet,
right?
You don't need, you definitely don't need to go to a trade show to ask what's new,
right?
So yeah, and I know SEMA and PRI are the same now, but PRI's, engine internals would be not a SEMA. If your wheels and tires or anything like that, go for it.
Right.
I mean, and
if not, PRI is the place to be.
Right.
That's interesting to talk about. It's interesting to hear the struggle that you had to legitimize sport compact. Like parts.
It was new. You don't know how many times I heard it's a fad.
Right.
You're.
But you're into the 2000s, right? And still that's happening
at
PRI.
but I mean, do the blocks? I mean, does the market go away? Does the does the illegal street racing shut it down? There was a lot of stuff going on that could have made that market, the sport compact market, stagnate. I mean, they did it. GM did a really good job of killing the drag market, coming in and throwing all that money around.
$2 million.
I mean, and we were making all the cranks for them, so it was kind of like, whatever. But in hindsight, of course, nobody's going to compete with those, Ecotechs and I mean, they were on kill, and it was just we talked about money as horsepower, and I just think that was too fast, too soon, and it stifled that whole, NHRA lost interest in it, and it wasn't.
Well, the competitors started drying up.
But I mean, look at the World Cup finals races they have in Maryland, the Texas 2Ks, Florida 2Ks. There's Honda days. The thing is, it just seems like it's gotten to be, all of those races I mentioned are, east of Texas 2K, and
well, they preserved it in a weird kind of way.
Well, they had, there's ACO, there's Maryland, they have the tracks there where here, I mean, you can do,
we got Bakersfield
I don't even
left.
You got Bakersfield. I mean, is there?
Is SAC even still?
I mean, is does Palmdale exist?
Palmdale's gone. LACR's gone. I mean, they're closing tracks all the time.
You got Barona's 8th Mile, but that's 8th Mile. I mean, that would be kind of the Irwindale.
Well, the street cars are starting to go 8th Mile.
Right.
So they don't even do quarter anymore.
Right.
And so it's like, I mean, 8th Mile is kind of becoming the new standard for. That's why all these all-wheel drive cars are making a hit.
Right.
I think the all-wheel drive really brought back Honda. I think Honda still existed. It's like the bug market.
Well, and so we talked a lot about B series, and then with the K series, that was another home run engine for Honda. And so that just kept, and that's still the go-to Honda today engine.
Probably street. But
right.
still
I mean,
B, though. You're
K24 block with a K20, A2 head. That engine would be, I mean, that's what that's what Prioto is running, 4-piston pushes. That's the 2JZ of the Honda.
Yeah.
If we're using those kind of analogies. But, so Honda will always, and they have the L15, they have the new K series that's in the Civic. So, what we wait for is for us to do cams, because cams is a big production run, 400 pairs of cams. We kind of gauge it by, are we selling a lot of rods first? Because then if we're selling a lot of rods, then, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'd say you sell 20 cams to every one set of rods.
Right. Okay.
That's just my hypothetical, or my,
20 cams to every one set of rod, and that's how you just run your production stuff.
So basically, if we're selling 100 sets of rods a year, it makes sense to do
a big run,
of cams. But what you don't want to do is do a big run of cams and have them just be dead player.
Right.
Nobody likes holding on to a lot of inventory. So, so we need to be sure, because now then they're CNC ground. So we want to make sure that they work in a because we can beta test in a car,
right?
But with a setup, and we can make that setup public and say these cams made X power with this setup. But not everybody has that setup. So you get situations where you grind a lot of cams, and then maybe they don't work in 50% of the applications, or they don't make as much horsepower.
Right.
Horsepower is that's a tough one. You get on the technical side of rods, and it's everybody wants to ask, well, how much horsepower can this rod handle?
Right.
And the engineering guys of this world will say, well, you can't rate a rod by horsepower,
right?
Because there's too many, there's too many variables,
Too many
with
variables,
the
right.
weight of the piston and compression and
What,
boosted or non or
or
and
fuel
so
ratio,
but
what's your
but
cylinder pressure at, and what's
if
your,
you ask if you tried to sell a set of rods and had to ask a 20 questionnaire, you probably wouldn't sell a lot of rods,
right,
so you just regurgitate based on, a lot of it is what we base off the rod bolt. The rod, like an ARP 2000 3/8 bolt
right,
is probably good to about 200 per cylinder.
okay,
And so therefore a 4-cylinder set of rods with ARP 3/8 bolts in it, ARP 2000 would be rated at 800,
right.
and that's an easy number, but is it accurate? I don't know. What happens after 800?
right.
What, does it stretch? Does it break? Does it come
Right.
apart? Does it bend?
Well, I think from a consumer perspective, it's like you're looking at something from where you want to go, right? And you're kind of, I mean, I do this, when I'm looking to buy something, I'm looking at like where am I gonna go with this,
Right.
And I might not be going to 800 horsepower, or if I'm gonna be like I'm gonna go past 800 horsepower on this thing, I'm gonna buy the next step up.
Well, and that would be the ARP 625,
Right.
And that's the call we get is because the rod is the physical rod is the same. It just has different bolts in it.
Okay.
And then it's rehoned, based on the torque of the bolt. So,
Right. So
what rod should I get? And I'm like, if you have any doubts, get the 625 because you're not going to hurt. Even if you're
I
just
always
making 400, it's not going to hurt anything.
I
but,
always say get the better one.
But what does your wallet say? That's the big thing. And we get guys calling and they're enthusiastic. I want to do a stroker and cams and then they obviously didn't research on the side of the prices, and you get, hey, that's we're talking about 6,500. Oh, well, what about just cams? Yeah, that's cool.
What do $250 get me?
Right.
Come on, send it over.
Well, yeah, like we said, guys like horsepower, guys like speed.
Girls like horsepower. Guys and girls like horsepower.
Well, I've learned
And in between.
the side-by-side market is an interesting market, whereas now, and that was another reason. I mean, there's 3 reasons. A, it's the Wild Wild West. Horsepower's, that's big over there. In dune markets, where the dunes are, and we're in Glamis, and Arizona's a good one, Utah, and Oregon, and then Oklahoma and Waynoka. But EPA was another one. It's off-road.
Yeah.
That would be a protective space to get into. And then it used to be called UTV, utility vehicle.
Yeah, right.
And then that changed to side-by-side. Well, why did it change to side-by-side? Well, now they're selling it as a family
Car,
instead of
yeah.
the dude going to the dunes with his family and then taking off on the dirt bike,
Yeah.
he's going to the dunes with his family, jumping in the 4-seater, side by side, riding with his wife, and you go to Sandsport, you go to these shows, and the husband and wife walk up, and I need more power, and the wife's like, yeah, you do. You're getting your ass kicked. The wives are very competitive, and I didn't realize that, but that works, and I have guys that are like, hey, I'll be honest with you, but my wife gave me the green light to get a stroker kit for my Razor. I'm like, right on.
When does that happen, huh?
No, I mean, and you don't get that usually on the sport compact side. I mean, I don't say it doesn't exist, but a lot of times it's just the single dude.
Right. Don't tell my wife.
Well, that you get that, or she's with them, and you get the death stare, and that the credit card's not coming out. So, but yeah, the I don't know where we were going, but the back to sport compact. I mean,
let's
you see things coming like the 4G63.
That's got to be still huge with you.
It's not honestly.
Really? 4B11 selling more than the 4G.
Yeah, but the whole Mitsubishi thing. I mean, honestly, probably the most popular Mitsubishi that we're doing is the 6G72.
Really?
The 3000. Just because it's more of a niche.
Yeah.
I just think I think the 4G63 market just got whored out.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, and we were, in 06, we sold a lot of our 0101, our 272, 4G63.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot.
Right.
a lot. I mean, it single-handedly just made it work. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it's part of, we don't market it. I mean, but we go to the races and but you go to World Cup finals and stuff. There's just not a lot of fast Mitsubishis.
No.
It's just like their K series now.
Yeah,
2Js.
Right. B series still hitting. Yeah.
It just, I don't know. It seems like, but I don't know. Like I said, I try not to live in a bubble and think we just don't see it. I mean, do we
You guys-
sell?
and
Do we sell them? Yeah, we still offer them. We have them.
You guys go to like every race. It seems like I feel like you were.
Will
You're like at every Formula D.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're at World Cup finals.
World Cup
You're-
finals.
are you
The
at
Honda days.
Honda Day. Are you at IFO at all?
We've done them.
Yeah.
I think it's important to get out there. Because
And
we
you guys-
can post on his, we can do all that shit.
And you
but
guys support so many drivers and vehicles, and it's like you supported Matt Van Kirk when I was crew chiefing and managing Van Kirk, and then you supported Jeff Jones too, right, on his car.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a big, the saying at Ford Motor Company is win on Sunday, sell on Monday.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in that. So yeah, I think to sell and with the drifting thing, I made a point to go out because what I liked about the drifting, it was very regional. So you're going to Atlanta, we know the West Coast, you're going to Seattle, you're going to New Jersey, you're going to these different areas in the country. So you get to see because we could be out here in Southern California and think everything is like this, but it's not.
It's not.
So it's nice to get, Northwest or New Jersey. And I used to always make a point of cruising out in the parking lot and just seeing what cars are in the parking lot.
Oh, interesting.
So, you'd see a lot of Evos and WRXs, all-wheel drive cars that aren't drift cars, but, people.
They're still enthusiasts.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's so the drifting, the drag racing, the time attack, me personally, that's real racing. I mean, not that drag racing is not real racing. I mean, we know drifting is not technically a race to the finish.
Right. It's subjective motorsports. It's judged, right?
But
time attack is
is where, and again, I'm not. When we go to all the drag races, so I can appreciate drag. My thing with drag races is over quick.
Yeah, right.
It's over quick, and then you have the oil downs, and that kind of it'll bog down the show. Time attack is to me like circuit racing, things like that. That's
real proving grounds right there.
That's good stuff. It's just boring to watch unless you got skin in the game. I mean, just can the crowd tell that you shaved 2/10 off your lap time? Does it matter? I mean, they go. And then they come back around, and you really can't see them like you go to Button Willow. But
do you guys
if
do grid
you're
life?
there,
do you guys go to grid life at all?
We've done every. I mean, we've done everything. Just to see what's going on out there. Like I said, I'm a big believer in you got to get out there. You can't just sit back here and think what you're doing in San Diego is what's happening in the rest of the country.
You heard about they're doing Gymkhana grid again.
Okay.
In fall, I guess Hoonigan's going to throw down in fall.
Well, I'm sure it'll be huge.
Yeah. What do you think about that? I have probably Irwindale. I don't know yet, but
I mean, obviously anything Southern California is easy to participate in, but and any event is great for the sport,
right?
And throwing the Hoonigan brand behind it, that just blows up.
Because I did it in 2010, and it was pretty awesome. But I really think that's what the industry might need. Is it's like if you took all of motorsports and you shoved them into one arena, right? Because you have the tree, you have the drag race,
right?
You have the drifting, you have doing donuts around barrels. Hey, it even brings the takeover people into it. If they could do some donuts, they can figure it out. But it's a mirrored course, right?
Yep.
So you have your time attack and you have your autocross, and everything kind of shoves in this one arena.
I think the attention span is getting less, so people need to be wowed,
right.
right off the bat, and constantly, the phone has just made it like, if there's an oil down, you could just look at, oil down, everybody's got their phone
out,
and so they're killing time, but if you could power pack an event that had everything you're describing, I mean, why wouldn't it be a hit? Because you're pulling in from, because there's time attack guys that think like drifting is like, ice skating or something.
They don't have to. I mean, that's the funny thing is if, you have your drifter guys who are great at drifting, but you see them out there, they can't drag race to save their lives.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a completely different deal. I mean, and like Von Gitten's doing good. He's segueing from drifting into off-roading.
Yeah.
And the Ultra 4 stuff, racer's a racer, but there's definitely, especially with drag racing, there's nuances to cutting a light and that kind of thing. So, not saying, I mean, a drifter certainly could learn it. Now, I think putting a drag racer in a drift car would be harder. I think you'd wad some shit up with doing that, but not saying they couldn't do it either. Like I said, racers race. But the other thing is having them all together is maybe you do have a time attack guy that poo-poos the drifting or the drag racing, and all of a sudden he sees it and he says, "Wow, it's pretty cool."
Right.
Gives
him a chance to really see.
Because otherwise, sometimes you get this closed mind and you just, and then, but you don't go out of your way to go see it. But maybe if it's there and you're, 300 yards from it,
do you ever get in any of these cars? Do you ever go for ride-alongs?
No, honestly,
No?
I'm not. I like making people go faster, but I'm not a speed guy.
Right.
I don't drive the side. I'll go in the side by sides,
right.
But I don't have a. I mean, that's my '90 Jeep Grand Wagoneer parked out front.
Oh, really?
So
you're cruising.
I'm not. Well, I mean, we're gonna drop an LS in it, but
of course you are.
It's not. But it's it's gonna be a stroker, but only to get on the highway. Only for that on ramp. But yeah, I drive a.
You just spun that around on me really quick.
Well, I drive a F250 Power Stroke. So I just. The problem is like I said, so my wife has this 7 Series. It's got the B58 in it. I get on the freeway. Next thing I know, I look down. I'm doing 110.
Right. You do diesel stuff too. Yeah.
We do diesel rods and things like that. And that's a nuanced market that and that's one where we haven't gone to any events.
Oh, wow.
And so that might be something. It's just how thin can you spread yourself?
That's true.
You
need like a travel team or something.
Well, and we do have, we have like 6 people that could go to races. Problem is if it's a new race, I want to go.
You're right.
Because if we're gonna commit to it, I want to be able to see, with my own eyes. So
yeah, that big power diesel stuff is nuts though. The dyno poles, they do those.
Well, it's just I'm talking to. We're with the side by side thing. We've gotten into because they'll buy cams, but they don't know how to tune it, and then we didn't have since it's not a 2J or K series. There's really it is kind of early, mid '90s sport compact where a lot of people did. Like AEM stepped up back in the day, and we got the tuning going and things like that, and so right now it seems like it's HP Tuners is trying to jump into the side by side thing, and so. We got to working with them, went to King of the Hammers and things like that. But they were telling me the volume of diesel stuff they sell is out of this world.
Yeah.
I just saw,
because it's like if you have if you got a diesel truck and you're putting money into modifying it,
right? It's
kind of like you're not even asking questions. You're like, oh, that's the best one because it costs the most.
Yeah, and in defense of the OEs, the Fords and the that are making these engines, and even in our market, like we would see the good one, the modern the L15B rod,
Right.
the beam looks like a pencil. It looks like about as big as your pinky. And so we see that, and we see opportunity. You know, we're going to sell.
That's a boosted
We're going to
motor.
sell a lot of rods, but they weren't. They either on that one they dropped the ball. But it's not their job to make an engine reliable to 400 horsepower.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It should be.
But we like when they don't. We like when they don't.
Right.
But you see where I'm going. So when there's and that's what we're talking about, the diesel stuff. I mean, they went over the top. You know, now it's
right.
1,000. You know, I mean,
all the new stuff is.
Because remember, the diesel is a torque. That's why you're buying a diesel,
right?
Not to make 1,100 horsepower,
right? No,
and to get to those is extreme, and yeah, it's cool. And I mean, when they grenade on the dyno, it's like a bomb going off.
That's the show,
right?
I feel like that's what people show up for.
Well, and
unfortunately,
we have a Dynajet on a mobile on a trailer dyno that we take, and we're taking it to the different side-by-side events, and that's the first thing people say is, we make them sign this waiver, and they're like, oh, kind of freaks them out, and it's like, look, we've never blown up a side-by-side on this,
right?
But then they bring up the diesel stuff, and it's like, you're looking at like 20-year history. Sure, in 20 years we're gonna have plenty of side-by-sides that blow up on this thing,
yeah,
because you're gonna be pushing.
They're making 900 horsepower,
exactly. So,
yeah,
when you're in. The diesel's a good market. The LS, even though it's been around for a while, it's so big, it's a good market. We used to say, we're only going to do. We deal with the LS for the drift guys, the Jeff Jones or guys that want to just drop a simple 400 horsepower into their S14.
Yeah.
More power to them. I mean, I'm doing it in the Jeep. And so it's just easy horsepower.
Right.
And they made so many of them, and they were in so many cars. It was just, and I always had kind of we won't get into the push rod market. I mean, the only V8s we do are the Tundra motor, drawing a blank, the 3URFE.
Right.
That's a V8, but it's over at Cam. And so I always kind of just said, look, push rod engines are. That's the Crower. That's the mothership.
And is that kind of just an agreement you guys have that you just
there's no agreement. It's just I knew they were getting out of the Sport Compact when I left, and so there was never really any overlap, and that was always my plan. The LS, they're not,
because you were supporting drivers, right, when you were at Crower. There was a handful of drivers.
We had back in the day it was back. The early Falcon guys. It was JR, Chris, Forsberg, I think Ryan and Mickey.
Right.
And they came down and they're like, yeah, we want to do VQ.
Oh yeah.
And we'll get you an engine and Vaughn was always talking Ford.
Mickey Andrade, yeah.
Yeah.
I met Mickey on the Nopi tour back east.
Yeah.
He's
a really cool dude.
I made him move out here. I said, if you don't get out to California, because he was in Ohio, and he's just like, nah, I got the stuff going on here. I said, if you don't get out to California, you're going to miss the opportunity.
Well, so in 2006, the FD started in 05, I think.
Right.
And so in 2006, went to Long Beach, and my theory is hey, who's got the biggest dick in the paddock? Who's well represented here? And obviously it was Falcon with their 3 trucks.
Yeah.
And so I went up there and was like, hey, who's in charge here? And it was Mickey, and we hit it. He had already come to Crower, and so we had already had a little history. And I said, hey, I'm doing my own thing. I know you got like with D-Mac, they had LSs in his S14,
right.
but it doesn't matter to me. It's you see a BC sticker on an S14, you're gonna think SR20.
Yeah.
And that's what we were doing, and so he was really cool to work that in. I mean, shit, we had stickers on Vaughn's Mustangs that were running Fords, and we didn't even make any Ford stuff. But again, it's win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Guy sees Vaughn, sees the sticker, needs cams for his B series. Oh, but obviously, we don't do a lot of that now.
Right.
The branding is there. I mean, we're going on, I think it's 17 years now. So,
I mean, before that, so before the early sport compact drag racing.
well, at Crowher,
days.
yeah, we do. I mean, Pronto transcends me at Crowher.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were dealing with like Craig Paisley at Crowher.
Yeah.
You know, all of the early guys, the Papadakises and the Sean Carlsons and
Rest in peace, Sean Carlson.
all of he was he was a good dude. I mean, all those you can see like all of those guys are still in existence.
Yeah.
You know, so or
'Cause
still
that was-
relevant.
right. Because 05, I mean, 05 was it? It was still, it was kind of like right when the sport compact drag racing started tapering off.
Well, and
Right,
you can
05,
see like
06.
05, and that's when
Like Myles
when
left in 05.
Papadakis went drifting, and Sean Carlson went drifting, and you know a lot of the OGs kind of got out. Bergenholtz,
Yeah.
even was over there. So, you know, they kind of saw the writing on the wall. And was it the right decision? Obviously, there's
They're still in it. Yeah.
Steph's still doing it.
Ron's still in it.
Yeah.
I see JoJo out there too. You
Right.
guys dealt with JoJo too
Right.
back then.
No, all you know, basically anybody that was running anything high horsepower, you know, you had to have a Crowher rod.
Yeah.
You know, and we got into it early. We did all of the popular engines early.
It always felt like talking to you. It always felt because I worked with you when I was with Honda Tuning, and so
Right.
I'd work with you on projects and talk to you a lot.
Right.
But it always seemed like you had a really big passion for the sport compact community.
Well, that's I mean, for me, as far as engine stuff, I mean, we had the Spintrons and the dynos at Crowher, and I just never had any interest to go back there and tear apart an engine. But when the sport compact thing happened, you had to walk the walk, and so we had to get, you know, luckily, you know, Crowher's in South San Diego, and all the junkyards, salvage yards were down there, so I could roll down through there. I actually had to go work at one over the summer because I was having too much fun, and my dad said, "You're gonna go sweat your balls off in the summer."
Are you kidding
pulling
me?
parts, and that's how I got familiar with pulling parts and getting into that. But that was
For Crowher, or just you had to just go work at the junkyard?
oh, he said, you know, because I mean, I think I was like 21 or something, and we'd go off at lunch on Fridays and not come back.
Right.
And yeah, were we taking you know, it was me and my cousin, and you know, so were we taking advantage of being Crowhers? Probably, you know,
Right.
should we have probably got fired? I mean, I don't know, you know, I mean, whatever. But
weird.
I mean, we were. It wasn't like we were just punching a clock. We were, you know, and that's the thing is one thing with the family business is there's just a lot of chiefs,
Right.
you know, and so to do anything was like got to go to committee, and committee meaning my dad, uncle, aunt, you know,
Oh, wow.
maybe cousins. So to be able to say, hey, we're gonna do, you know, we're gonna do L15 B7 cams.
Yeah.
You know, I could just tell you, you know,
Right.
we're gonna do them, and we're gonna do them.
Right.
Versus, you know, I got to talk to the higher ups and
You gotta
see
wait,
if
cut
you know,
that
because
red
I'm not
tape.
writing the check. You know, there I wasn't writing the checks.
Right.
Now, you know, things are a lot smoother because we can just do it.
Right.
And so that's, I like that part. Did I want to leave? Probably not. You know, I
Right.
think it got confusing.
What was that like leaving? I mean, it had to be really hard.
Yeah, it sucked because it just, there wasn't the same, there just wasn't the same passion, and there wasn't the same, the other thing was, so, you know, it was aunts, uncles, and everybody had a piece of it. And what I wanted to know was, what's the succession plan?
Yeah. Right.
You know, because I don't want to put 30 years in and then say, hey, you know, we sold you to Holly Corporation and you got to move to Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Right.
I mean, I grew up in San Diego.
Yeah,
I'm in San Diego. We stayed in San Diego.
You're not
I mean,
leaving.
you know, I get it. California's nuts, and we do a lot of stupid shit, but the weather's great.
Especially San Diego.
San Diego's like, I don't want to say it's this bubble from, you know, the rest of the state, but anyway, I grew up here. I don't know any different. I've been around the world. I can't find any better weather.
Yeah.
We're established here. So we'll probably, we talked about going to Carson City or Arizona. It's just, I think that ship sailed to do a full on, because that means moving the family, not only moving the business, moving the family. Hopefully California just doesn't get so retarded to where it's so anti-business that you don't have a choice.
Right.
And that remains to be seen. That's
a real thing that I think maybe a lot of our viewers aren't realizing is that not only is California killing the aftermarket enthusiast game, they're kind of killing it for all the businesses here just by like hitting them hard with all kinds of just
it's
tape.
the taxes and the regulations and I'm not advocating dumping hazardous waste into the ground, but there's just a lot of BS you got to jump through, like you said, red tape.
Yeah.
That you don't have to do it in other states, and without the state taxes that they're, they say that you can they'll basically give you a U-Haul to drive back into California because so many people are leaving. There's a shortage. That's what I heard.
Right.
Is it true? I don't know, but makes sense because they're saying there's a lot of people are leaving the state. California or Crower is the nice thing is there's a really good labor pool and they can come up from Mexico on the TJ side. And so you're getting the best of the best.
Yeah. Get good.
And
good work, good work.
The nice thing with Crower was it was a lot of it was, and so basically back to the Crower thing, there was some stuff aside from the sport compact. There was kind of an we don't need inventory. They'll wait. They'll wait 8 weeks to make the rods, and I was a big believer of no, you'll lose the sale.
Yeah.
You're relying a lot on the brand to say they'll wait 8 weeks because nobody has a perfectly good running engine and then decides to call a Crower or a Curlo or whatever and start shopping for rods.
Yeah, right.
It just doesn't, maybe if you're going to get a turbo or bigger turbo or something like that and you're planning ahead, but usually shit hits the fan, you windowed your block and you need rods and, you got a fucking race to go to in 3 weeks.
Yep.
And you don't want to hear 8 weeks.
No.
And so, or a sprint car, or whatever, anything that needs rods. So therefore, we should have rods in stock. I would write like fake orders, fake purchase orders from companies, whether it was like this is that Crower at like Titan or
like
whoever.
they want
back in the
X
OG
amount of number of
Dynamic Auto needs 10 2J stroker cranks, 94 millimeter. They needed one, but I ordered 9 because if I tell a guy that calls and he's shopping for a stroker kit and I say it's in stock,
right?
Because the nice thing about the cast iron blocks is we pretty much know you're going to go 1 over and it's turbo. So back in the day, the tuning wasn't that great. So 9.5 to 1. So I could keep that piston in stock and I could have the rods and I could say, hey man, I can ship you a 3.4 2J stroker tomorrow.
Right.
And that kind of blew people away.
Right.
And that's the business model. You can't please everybody. You run out of stuff. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but we try to get you a stroker kit. If it doesn't have to,
that just shows you had a passion for the end user.
Well, so there were disagreements with Crower in terms of philosophy. And again, I was second generation, nothing. We got into the sport compact and that kind of thing, but I didn't have pull.
Right.
And so I was kind of wondering what the succession plan was, and they were kind of like, there isn't one, And so I didn't want to go 30 years and then get the rug pulled out, and then or have somebody buy it and then you're answering to something else that you don't even know. So that was another thing was kind of control your own destiny. The stars things were kind of lining up. They didn't want to be in the sport compact market. I wanted to run things a little bit differently. let's see if it works out. If it works out, and it worked out.
What was some of the struggles like starting it off and kicking it off?
Confusion, just like why I don't understand. You know what why, and you know, so you have to tell the story. Well, they didn't want to support it anymore,
Right.
so you were going to wait 10 weeks for the rods, and that wasn't what I wanted to be able to get stuff out the door. And it's, today
kicking off BC, like what was the struggles in kicking off BC?
I mean, there wasn't any.
Really?
It hit the ground running. I mean, everybody, and it wasn't. It was just, like I said, the business model worked. The business model was, I have it in stock. I can ship it to you tomorrow.
Right.
That was the business. Obviously, quality had to be
Right.
up to standard. I mean, everything worked out. And we're here, but it was pretty, I had read up, 80% of businesses fail. And, I lost a lot of sleep thinking about starting it.
Right.
But once it started, it went so fast. I didn't have time. And it was just, every year sales were, they were just increasing, and we're still on that trajectory. So,
and that's because you were the front man for it anyways. So since everybody saw, and that's what in my opinion, I feel like if you're gonna sell something, since I've been dealing with you since way back in the day. If you're gonna do Brian Crower and run some stuff, I'm buying.
And that's why I like to get to the races. And this isn't an ego thing. So hot rodding is a family kind of deal. That's
Right.
how it was, and it still is. And so they like being able to talk to a Vic Edelbrock or a Fred, Vic's at a race, or Fred Carrillo at Carrillo Rods, or whoever, Ed Iskandarian or Harvey Crane, or it helps, and so that's why I like to get out there. But that's so what's happening now is kind of like private equities buying companies, and then they're just kind of like, we don't need that, and the owner got paid out, good for them, but they're kind of removed, and so you're losing the disconnect, and I'm not saying that it doesn't, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, BC would still go on,
Right.
so but it helps, I can the fact that and yeah, you're right, I do care. I could check out if I wanted to, but I tell people, I don't really look at it as work. So work would be like, you got to go to a phone bank and you got to cold call all these people to sell them something that they didn't ask for,
Right.
and you're bugging them on their cell phone,
Right.
and you're just getting hung up on that. That to me would be work.
Right.
I'm kind of the opposite, where I come in and people are calling us, and it's a cool like they're happy to,
Right.
they're happy to give us money. It's an honor to be able to do this kind of thing, because I don't golf,
Right.
and so retirement, yes, I have family stuff, but I don't know if I could ever retire. Like I have, like Bill Miller is 79 years old and he's still making pistons, and I don't think at 79 I want to go in every day like he does,
Right.
but I want to be involved because it's cool. We're making, we're selling horsepower. It's a cool thing.
It is a cool thing.
It's not, you're not selling insurance, or you're not, whatever. It's just, I don't know what to say. Growing up in it was awesome. You go to the Winter Nationals, or go to the Indy 500, or Baja was in our backyard.
So you went to all that stuff growing up.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
No,
wow.
it was, you grow up, in the racing scene, and
what was your favorite? Like, what was your favorite?
The favorite race is Indy 500.
Right.
That, we got to work on a team, tire changing for seasons.
So you got to work on a team.
yeah, and just going into the Indy 500 with the, it's 250,000 people or more.
Yeah.
That's a cool experience. That track, just the history. But
That's wild.
Baja's really, there's different favorites.
Right,
like for a pure racing thing, I think the 500 would be good. I mean, nothing beats a NHRA with the top fuel cars running. For sheer power going through your body is that's unreal. So. If you said, hey, you could go to one race, I'd probably go to the 500.
Yeah.
And we don't do anything those are all sealed engines from
motor,
from Honda or Chevy, but back in the late 90s they did. That was when they broke off, and the Oldsmobile made said basically you could run what you brung, and Bruce Crowder was involved in Indy in the late 50s, and so he went back, and it was me and his son Daniel, and we would go back and it was cool because we were doing cams for it and tie rods for it, and so and then it went back to the crate motor deal, and then that was the end of that. But
wow, what a great thing to be a part of.
Well, it was cool at the time. Are you really gonna get forward doing parts for just that? No. Does it sell? Does doing IndyCar stuff sell anything for the pushrod V8 market? Probably not. No. So there was the only reason we were allowed to do it was that Bruce Crowder said, we're doing it, and when he said do it, that he was big into Bonneville. Now that one of the the engines of choice for the Bonneville Streamliners is a 2J, because of the inline six,
it makes the power.
And it makes the power, and so
probably
Jay Meager,
weight too, right?
It's all of the above, but Jay Meager is big on. There's 5 cars that he's kind of involved with that have 2J power, and so that's another. Bonneville has always been a proving ground kind of thing for me, is to it's a good showcase for just longevity, durability, things like that.
Right. Wow.
So yeah, we try and be in. Obviously we don't.
You're literally in everything.
We don't do the we don't do that stuff. That's not our market. We don't do IndyCar. Obviously, nothing F1. But
you're in everything else.
You're pretty much. JDM, for sure. The side by side stuff, yes. LS now, yes. We do the diesel rods. The Dodge SRT4 is it's not.
I feel like when I say everything in my world is sport compact.
Right.
So you do everything in my world.
In that environment, we try and we do try and be all things to all people.
Yeah.
It's a market that got, like I said, even at Crowder, I was told it was a fad. It's going to go away fast. It's not going to last. It's not going to be like the 350 Chevy.
Close to 30 years later.
And I think the 2J, they made so many, small block Chevys. No, I don't think anything's going to rival that from, I think the production year was 1955 to 80, whenever the LS came out.
Yeah.
So, a shitload of blocks and cases or heads, and but anyway, the 2J's right there. The B series, because of the crossovers with 16, 18.
Yeah. 20,
you can LS, get an LS block. Same with the K24
CRV block. You can do a 2-liter block.
So that those three, and then the Subaru. The EJ's good because there's a lot of crossover there too.
EJ,
one rod fits all of them.
Right.
So that's cool. It technically, if you had an EJ20 rod and an EJ25 rod, it's like 8 thou difference in length.
Oh, really?
So at Crowder, when we did it, because of the hard time getting shit made in that market, was split the difference and sell them for both. You know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
it works. You know, it's not. There's no piston or valve issue at when we're talking
4,000.
3,000. You know.
yeah.
So,
That's funny.
yeah. So,
Is
I
that
would say,
just,
I would say
is that
those-
just to get it so that because you knew that you wouldn't get one for each? You just
Yeah.
knew, so you had to just find a way around.
I mean, it was that. It was also from a production standpoint. No, you don't want to waste time making a rod that's exactly the same except for 3 thou.
Right.
You know. So, yeah, but yeah, the original thought was I'm never going to get 2 part numbers. I'll go for 1.
It's crazy.
And believe it or not, that now you go look, you won't find an EJ25 rod in EJ20
Because it works.
Because it works.
Right.
So I mean, whoever brand you're looking for, it's going to be fit both. And you know, I'm not saying this is cutting edge. It was just something that we had to do to get.
That's
parts
funny.
on
I
the
wonder if
shelf.
you probably set the standard for that.
Well, I mean, like I said, at Crowder, we were involved early on a lot of the early sport compact engines. You know, whether it was the 4G63 or the 2J.
Yeah, everyone. That's it. So everyone I talk to, all these old school sport compact drag racers, I know they all ran Crowder, and I guess once they started trying to push the limit too, they started trying aluminum stuff and different things like that.
Well, yeah,
later.
and you know, when you start getting into the boost levels, the steel rod, there's a shock factor that the aluminum has some absorption in the material, so it won't snap. You know,
Right.
a big boost rod, steel rod will snap, and you can't just keep adding weight to a steel rod to where it becomes a big hammer.
Right.
So yeah, aluminum rod. I mean, it's a rod that needs to be maintained,
Yeah.
and we just never got into doing aluminum rods at Crowder, and you know,
You
there's-
guys don't have any.
We offer them. We have R&R make them. We have CP CP makes a good aluminum rod.
Right.
So we use those for that.
You
But
guys have some titanium stuff though too.
we're starting. It was really just trying to find room in production to be able to do that.
Right.
You know, is it worth it? And so, you know, we're starting out. We did K24. We did a K24. We did the original test set was for Jay Meager at Real Street. We did a set of 2J rods, knowing it was going into boost, which, you know, titanium and boost is not necessarily a good matchup like aluminum. But you know, I know Jay knows what he's doing, and so we said, yeah, let's, you know, because it was new to us. Let's test it in a little more high horsepower application. And he's like, I said, well, if it breaks, are we cool? He's like, yeah, I mean, whatever. He's still running them.
Wow.
And so we are doing a run of 2Js.
How much power did that run? Did that
He's
2J
at like 1,400.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, so and like I said, it was more, you know, it'll make 1,400 just for how long?
Yeah,
you know,
right,
and
right.
before it just snaps, because titanium is
More
more
brittle.
brittle than
Yeah.
steel. Steel is more brittle than aluminum, and
Right.
that's you know, and titanium. I mean, let's face it, it's just a high priced, you know. But what we found at Crowder, we used to make titanium rods for Harleys,
Right.
Harley Davidson bikes, and making them, a lot of them, and finally I said, where do you guys road race these things? And he says, oh, we don't use them for road racing. He says, what do you use them for? We use them for bar hopper bikes. I said, why do you need titanium? He says, for the bragging rights. He says, everybody brags about their Harley at each bar, and, you know, everybody's got everything else, and you say you have a set of titanium rods, you've won up that guy. So I was like, cool. You know, I mean,
That's
whatever it
crazy.
takes. You know, I don't.
I mean, bragging rights is a thing, though.
Well, and it adds you know, dollar value to, you know, your rods are you know, $1,400,
Right.
you know. So, and I guess I'm not in the Harley scene, but I guess that's you know, you gotta have
$1,400
you gotta have something to talk
for
about.
2 rods.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to have something to talk about at the bars, and I guess this was one of it, or part of it. But yeah, you never know what they're going to use them for. I mean, obviously, we're under the assumption that you're buying it for less rotating mass, and you know, road racing application.
applications,
But it is less wear on the bearing. You're not flinging as much weight. So there are advantages. It's just it's a high dollar item though.
Right.
And so does the cost justify the dollar? And that's what we do. We try and I try and
I guess power rating those rods is a whole different animal.
You're basically got a guy that's not really concerned with horsepower, but more RPM.
Right. Yeah.
Will these run to 11,000 RPM in my K series?
Yeah.
Well, as long as your valve train can handle it.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I guess K series is probably a good one to do on that. Yeah.
K24 because it is a long rod. We do a lightweight steel rod. It's just that rod is like 5,985 center to center. It's a long rod, and and we rate again. It's not a horsepower thing, but it's just to start the conversation. But 350 horsepower for 4-cylinder. So a little less than 100 horsepower per rod. But it's NA. Do not run these in a boosted. I don't care if you're running 8 pounds on a supercharger. Don't run it.
Right.
It's not intended for that. But the tie rod, you lay them side by side, and the tie rod is less weight and just looks, it's massive compared to this one. It's not. Because we're doing a tie rod, we're not making it as buff as our turbo steel rod.
Right.
So we're trying to get into a happy medium of this guy he doesn't need a penciled thin rod, but because he wants to turn RPM, but he also is buying these titanium rods and spending the money for the titanium rods to have a light rod. So the less material we use, the lighter it's going to get. Right. Even to the point of using 5/16 bolts, good, 625, 5/16 bolts, just because, that's what we're trying to achieve. Now, what other engines need tie rods? That's where we're doing it more. We'll make you 20 pieces minimum.
Right.
Of titanium rods for whatever you want.
Okay. So if you have a racing, a racing application and you're going to build a bunch of motors, you can spec them out.
Maybe you need 40 pieces. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just 20 pieces where we want to start because there is an engineering involved, and I don't want to make 2 titanium rods. It's just it slows down other stuff that needs to happen. So
do you have plans for any? Do you have an area you're looking at for titanium rods right now?
Well, so we're doing we're doing a little run of 2Js just because it's working and people are asking for it.
Right.
We're gonna do not sport compact related, but Polaris side by side. They just came out with a 4-cylinder, which is pretty. It kind of ties into the sport compact because you talk to some of the engineers and the engine was modeled after an F20C, and then the head was after a Duratec or a Ecotec,
yeah.
bucket cam on bucket,
yeah.
Which was basically the same as what they were already using, but anyway, that we're doing tie rods for that.
Oh wow!
Because it is an NA deal, and people are racing them, and this has become kind of the, for you put $80,000 for an $80,000 4-cylinder, you've basically got yourself almost a mini trophy truck.
Wow.
And you can go out to Ocotillo and go 150 miles an hour if you can do it. And you're not going to get pulled over.
Right. The market is nuts for those.
I've gone to Sand Show. It's interesting. It is. Yeah. And we go there, and it's a new, just like I said, it reminds me a lot of the late 90s in that it was all, nobody was doing anything. Webb was doing regrinds. Carrillo was making rods. But not, telling you 18 weeks and But I said, and I'm looking at production runs. So we'll do anything like the Polaris the Polaris Turbo 16 to current. Right. That's 7 years of production. That's enough to say that there's going to be enough of them out there to make 400 pairs of cam cores, and then Polaris, and everybody's got these 1,000 cc's or less. Can-Am is 900
Right.
cc. And then Polaris just big dicked everybody and went to a 2-liter. So now the market's kind of like, well, where does this thing fit in? Where does it race? Well, right now they're racing with each other. So it's kind of like everybody's got the same thing. So titanium rods would be an advantage.
It's a matter of time before other companies follow suit and come out with a 2-liter, right? I mean, I feel like it's just the nature of the game, right? It's the nature of the beast. Right?
The way they're selling, you'd be. I'm not telling BRP who owns how to run their show. They're working on something. It's in the 12 to 1600 range, from what I understand. And then Kawasaki's supposed to be working on a 2-liter. Honda could just shit out a 2-liter tomorrow if they wanted to.
Right.
So
I love the story on how Honda develops motors too. Have you seen that? How they develop their 4-cylinder, any of their motors?
I haven't seen it, but
they develop a 1-cylinder.
Oh, well, yeah.
They build and they modify a 1-cylinder, and they do all of the changes and everything to that 1-cylinder motor. They make this badass 1-cylinder motor, and then they just multiply it.
Right.
That's their whole.
They're just trying to make everything as efficient as possible.
As efficient as possible, yeah.
On the R&D side and on the operation side, because you can get a lot of data off 1 cylinder.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's. We do. So like B58 comes out, and it's what is it? Drawing a blank on this truck. 96 millimeter stock. We came out with 100 millimeter stroke. Well, how do we know it's going to clear?
Right.
How do we know the rods are going to swing in the block? Well, we
get a motor.
3D print.
Oh, what?
A plastic crank that's to that stroke.
Oh,
put a
really?
set of rods on it. Put it in a block. Turn it. No. Okay. So what do we got to do? The 100 was fine. We wanted to do a 104, and that one clanked around so much that we just said, you know what, we're not going to buy. The engine's too new. The blocks are scarce. I don't want somebody to get into their water. I don't want somebody to ruin a block trying to clearance it for a case when we already know the 100s they're running really, really well.
Right,
basically, if you don't have a 3.2 in a Supra, you're behind the 8 ball, and that's
what's top power on those guys right now?
Well, like I said, the blocks are scarce, they're expensive. Everybody's kind of on eggshells to really push it, and
They're making
1,400 horsepower.
Yeah,
I think that's a fair number.
Right, that's kind of Steph's running that motor. He's kind of at that range. I feel like.
Yeah.
But he changes turbos around and all that stuff. For
trucks. and we're not at the point of needing a billet block yet.
Yeah.
So that's good on BMW for being able to. They're 500 horsepower rated. So.
But you had some of your parts in Texas 2K, right? And some of those.
Yeah, all the drag guys. Are running a stroker. You want to run a big turbo and you want to run a fast ET, you got to spool it up quick. And the turbo, the stroker helps. Obviously, tuning and
what's fastest pass right now on your setup on stuff on that stroker?
The one thing there's so many classes and stuff. I don't even know. You'd have to ask like Norris or one of those guys,
right.
Mikey. Just like I said, I don't want to throw out a wrong number,
right.
So, but yeah, the B58's a good platform. Other new ones, like I said, the L15 would be a good one.
Yeah.
New K series, anything turbo.
You're touching it. If it's turbo, you're on it.
The Mitsubishi, I don't know what's up with them.
Right.
I just think they're I don't know what they want to be. They definitely don't want to be. They definitely don't want to compete with the SI Civic,
right?
Or, Nissan. Even Nissan, will come out with the GTR. And
they got GTR. They got the new Z.
New Z was
cool.
that VR30 is supposed to be the next big thing. We've got, it's the same engine that's in the Infinities. So I have a crank and I've had it, and
from that motor?
For one out of the Infinity, but I don't want to end up like if we would have. So back to the B58. We went to a salvage yard and got one out of a 7 Series BMW B58.
Right.
It was a B, not 30, but 2 something.
The one before they
the
put it
first
in the
gen,
Super,
right? But and so that's what we were gonna R&D off and cat off and everything. The rods would have been fine. The crank would have been a first gen crank, and we are making first gen cranks now, but it's different. Luckily, Daigo Saito sent me a engine from Japan,
really,
out of a Supra.
Daigo's nuts.
He is.
That guy's rad.
And the crank was different.
Okay.
And so, and like I said, we've probably sold 5 first gen, to BMW guys, but we've probably sold 200 Supra strokers. So, so the B50, so basically the point of the VR30, I don't want to riff off a SUV, a Q60 engine, and have the Z be, we changed the crank trigger position sensor or whatever. We knew this one was going to be more power, so we changed the bolt pattern on the flywheel. I don't want anything.
How do you go about getting one of those motors though at this point?
That's the thing. That's why I haven't come out with anything. I just don't want to end up with 20 boat anchors or 20 Q60 strokers.
Hey, so if you got a new Z and you have the motor out, just happen to have the motor out, just send one over to.
Yeah, well, we can check and kind of go side by side with the crank we have, but I've talked to people about sending one. The problem is I need one that's kind of they don't need back.
Oh, right.
That because we want to have it R&D riff off it, but then when it's done, we also want to compare the finished to the OE to make sure we just didn't miss anything.
Right.
So
you got to get in there and mic what do you do like CM or what do you do?
No, well the scanning that's there, but it's not there to where you're gonna believe it. So we end up miking everything anyway.
Okay. That's why you like to have it on hand, so you can just go mic to mic.
Just as a cover your ass deal. But
you still have a relationship with Forsberg? He's doing one?
Yeah. No, we and again, it's just a question of we haven't gotten any calls on a stroker yet.
Right.
I've got people asking when is it going to come out, but I ask it, well, is your engine apart? No, I'm just thinking ahead. So it might be too soon right now. I mean, I don't know what and we, like I said, we want to do it strictly. It's going to be like the Supra where the B58s, the VR30, we're only going to sell rods and strokers and stuff to Z customers.
Yeah.
We're not going to sell them to Infinity people. Maybe the coupe or whatever that's in there, but definitely not the Q60 stuff. But those so it's not. We have time, So I'm not rushing. The L15 would be a priority. The K-Series would be a priority.
Do you have any of those? You get any L15s down here at all? Ready?
Yeah,
working on them?
That one we're pretty good to go on. We're, and it's also just having the confidence that we're going to sell, these cams.
Right.
So we got like some engines that we got kind of burned on that we kind of bought into the hype. The 2AZ FE. That was in all the Scion TCs. And remember the big push? They had Gucci and, they were really pushing the TC and then it just turned out it was kind of more of a chick car.
Right.
People didn't hot rod it. And so we slowly discontinued. We got rid of all the cams, kind of blew them out.
Damn.
And now we don't have them anymore. And we always get calls like, I'd pay anything to get a pair of cams. Can't you do one pair? No. I'm not going to do another 500, pair run for that might be a 20-year supply at this rate. But and engines come and go, like the QR25. There's some link out there to our website. The page, it doesn't exist. It's just, I don't know. I'm not I don't know enough about the
It's
internet.
still on the website.
It exists out there in the world. It doesn't exist on our page, but we'll get guys send us the link. But you do have the cams, and we're like, no, look on the look. It's not there. Look under Nissan. There's no QR25, and so that was another dead player that once we got rid of, all of a sudden kind of. It's kind of like they say, they're not popular until you're dead, And this is kind of like with the engine.
That was a newer Sentra motor, right? Was that?
Yeah. And so again,
what else was a dead end? Was like a dead end?
I mean that's you ask why, what were the challenges of getting up and running there. We didn't have any, that was the thing is
you knew what
it
to
was
support.
really,
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't stupid. I wasn't going to do something new to start off.
Yeah.
I was going to go tried and true, with those, we had the JDM companies, the HKSs and the Spoon Sports and Junes and, and they were doing, it was just shipping from Japan and things were, they hadn't set up, and I'm talking about Crowder, they hadn't set up U.S. And even when it was like.
This is the 90s, yeah.
Yeah, it was like Corella was making the rods here. And so it was, there was opportunity to get into the JDM market if you took it serious.
Yeah.
If you didn't take it serious and you didn't think it was a fad, then it would have. Well, I mean, you gotta anything new. You if you don't believe that it's worth doing, then it's gonna show.
Yeah, right.
If you just half-ass it and say, "Oh, yeah, we're doing that market too," I mean, and that's probably kind of what the diesel market was. Our diesel rod sales are probably predicated on whoever is the popular diesel rod manufacturers being out of stock. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, and just based on the sales, we're not actively in it.
Right.
And so the product's not half-assed. The rod is a beautiful rod, but the effort on our end is not there, and so it's going to show.
I feel like you're spread kind of
it
thin
is,
with drifting and Sport Compact and World Cup finals and HD.
Yeah, and you can, and again, it does. You definitely. I don't want to attend an event, pay for a booth, and send two people that are looking at their cell phone all day and not. First off, they can't even answer a tech question. There's, hey, you want a sticker?
That's not.
And I see that. I walk by and companies, and maybe I have a question, and I walk up and they're just like, I don't know, man. They just send us to this race. I'm a Chevy guy.
I don't know, man. I just work here.
Well, I'm a Ford guy. They just sent me here because they didn't have anybody to do it. And I'm like, what's the point of that? So I don't want to send.
What race did you just get back from? You went to a race last week, right?
Well, we were at the sand drag race in side-by-side deal.
Yeah.
And those. So that time is in my head because I just came back from it. So they're running 300 feet at 3.6.
What?
Yeah. So
in the sand.
That's
wild.
So
with side by side.
Can-Ams, Polarises. I mean, that's and YXZs, Yamahas.
Are they like stretching them, or are they?
Yeah,
what are they doing?
No, go. I mean, so
I'll check it out.
It's. If you want to, if we're talking like, hey, the tracks are closed, the drag strips are closing, these guys are trying, talking to the guy that owns the land, the property. This is in Waynoka, Oklahoma. It's in the middle of the country. He owns 400 acres and it's right on the dunes.
Right.
And so he's got big plans to put a tower with a tunnel, grandstands, lighted, timing and scoring lights at the end.
That's wild. That's an infancy. That's an infancy of a new motorsports. Yeah.
It's and it's easily accessible. You go to every city, bigger. They have a power sports store, and you go there and say, or you get on the internet and find one. And if you want to go racing, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, like Reese Millen is doing it. There's a lot of it's going to be the same thing. I don't know if it's going to be the same people, but you'll see guys that. Like back 7 years ago or 8 years ago, Forrest Wang was doing rock crawling with Suzuki's.
Yeah.
And I never put 2 and 2 together of off-road. But we were out at King of the Hammers. We brought the dyno out to King of the Hammers.
That's like a Hawaiian thing.
It's not anymore.
It was. It was like when I go to Hawaii, my like Steve-O and all those guys, they would just go crawling.
Right.
They'd go drifting.
Well, you go out to Johnson Valley, and they're doing all that stuff, and they're doing it in everything.
Yeah.
And that's become me. I don't see the value or the thrill in destroying your car. You're basically trying to drive these things up giant boulders. And you're definitely destroying the undercarriage, but you're the side panels. And people watch it because it's kind of like watching a crash.
Yeah,
they're going to roll it over,
but then they flip them back over and they do it again.
Flip them over, do it again. Put oil back in it and call it a day. But check out. The sand drag's an interesting deal.
Check it out.
Look up like Dome Valley. They run them out in Arizona, and that's a dirt track, and they broke. So it was just an event to set records.
Wow.
At 300 feet.
Yeah.
And there were 14 records. They set 12 new ones.
Wow.
So that's how that sport's evolving.
Yeah.
That whole segment, the
the
power has gone from 300 to the wheel to 700 to the wheel.
Jeez.
In 2 years. And the turbo guys are getting into it. It's becoming like I said, it's sport compact just in today's world. And and again, I hear people, it's fat, it's whatever. Do you think it's going to last? I say, hey, the Polaris is going on an engine that's 7 years old. It's good enough for me.
I think with that many units out there, something's going to happen to them. People are like lowering them.
Can-Am's from 17.
You're seeing people lowering them and putting bigger street wheels on them.
And now you got different territories. Like here is more Baja. So you're different car. You're racing it out.
But they're still running them on Baja.
But you have Glamis, which is dunes, which is different. Obviously, paddle tires, not knobby tires. You don't need to do hard pack. If you have more than 300 horsepower, it's probably too much. On the dunes. Yeah. The dunes is power. So we've learned in our market, focus on dune crowds. So that's Idaho, Oregon coast, Glamis, Arizona, Utah, Winoka, and Michigan has a little. It's like you have to go in the same direction though.
Oh right.
It's a sand dune.
So you don't run into anyone?
Pismo used to exist in Central California, but they're squeezing. That one's getting lost out to the environmentalists. So, there's also we went to Texas 2K. Thursday it rained and Friday it rained. So Thursday at the track, when it rains at a drag race, you're fucked. There's nothing. You get business to business and talk to other people that and stuff like that. But so did that Thursday. Friday I was like, I looked at the forecast. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna drive 3 hours to the Louisiana border. I'm gonna go to this mud event. Well, these guys are on like 68-inch tires in their side-by-sides, and they're going through mud pits.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to them, and they're like, oh, yeah, we're running all your stuff.
What?
And I was like, really? I said, I didn't. Yeah, we're down in Louisiana. And I was like, oh. So I get back, I start looking, I'm like, wow, shit, they bought some strokers and stuff. So they need it. They need the grunt to get through the mud.
Yeah.
And then they also need it because it used to be they'd have a 30-foot launch, and then the guys got smart. Well, rather than go 30 feet and go into the mud, we're going to try and get as much speed as possible and try to go over the mud.
Yeah.
So they skim the mud.
Right.
And so you needed torque for that. And then the guys that did the track got smart and say, well, some events I'm going to start you're not going to know till you get there, but some are going to start out of the mud, some will start in the mud. So so the sports, it's kind of cool but it's really, if they didn't need our shit, then it wouldn't be as cool. But it's a different segment to a different market.
I love seeing that. Because you look at Sport Compact and you're like, where are you going to go?
Right. Well, you could drift it, you could drag race it, you could time attack it.
But at this point, it's not in its infancy anymore.
No.
So where are you going to go? Like really,
what's the next?
What's the next great big thing in Sport Compact?
Are you going to start a company tomorrow and say, start it from scratch, and your business model is going to be, I'm going to focus on 2J, K series, and B series? It's kind of like.
I think you'll still probably do okay.
It just depends on the quality of the part.
I mean,
what you're, who you are, what you bring to the table. Do you have it in stock? The whole thing with the stock thing is even though I said that was one of my beefs at Crowder was back in the mid 2000s was inventory. Think about today. I mean, you got the Amazon mentality where if a guy places an order,
maybe you wouldn't do okay.
He'll call and say, "Where's my tracking number?" And you're like, "Dude, you ordered it 10 minutes ago."
Yeah.
Or a stroker kit. What do you mean it's not going to ship today? I said, "We're not making pizzas here, buddy.
Yeah,
this is you wanted a bore size that we didn't have or
what's
compression."
It like selling to that mentality? That's got to be crazy. That's got to be like
the
kind of
Amazon mentality.
Yes.
Well, it's gotten
Gen Z Amazon mentality. What is that?
It's definitely. Well, I remember back before the internet where you could say it shipped,
right,
and that's all you told them. Yeah. There's no tracking number, and you're not going to. It shipped,
right?
Even though maybe it didn't ship because it wasn't ready yet, but you just say it shipped.
It shipped.
If it got there in 12 days,
it shipped.
It shipped.
Yeah.
Talk to UPS. What are they going to do?
You're going to get it.
So I've come all the way through that whole where you do have a tracking number. Now it's I didn't get a tracking number, and yeah, it can be frustrating. I mean, you definitely don't want to cop an attitude with somebody that spent money with you.
No way.
But when they're doing unreasonable things like ordering it at 3:00 and then saying 3 p.m. and then saying, "Hey, I didn't get a tracking number," and you're like, "Well, it's shipped tomorrow." Well, what do you mean? Why is that?
Wow.
You said you had it in stock, and so they don't understand, and maybe it's a time zone thing or whatever. But again, I am a big believer in customer service,
right?
But I am not a believer in the customer is always right. I'm a big customer service person. That's I think part of the customer service is being able to ship in a timely manner. But I'm not a customer is always right guy.
Right.
I'm definitely. I mean, you can cross as a customer. You can cross the line, and I can count on the more. I mean, I need more fingers and toes to count how many times I've told people to go fuck themselves.
Right. Okay.
And I have some tolerance. I'm not saying I fly off the handle quick or anything like that. It's just some people have unreasonable expectations. Whether it's wanting warranty on something that is clearly not the part's fault.
That's got to be a big one.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And once it leaves here, it's out of our control.
Right.
A big one is they shear the dowel pin off the cam, and so, hey, your cam's, it'll be in the subject line, cam failure or, cam warranty or just something to start the tone off,
right? To
where it's like, you know what, we'll see where this goes.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying, sometimes the nature of the chill cast cores, it's not a billet, it's not a steel core, so if you drop it, if you don't do the torque sequence proper, you'll snap the cam. And customer service is, if a guy bought a set of new cams from us and he snapped it on install, we're not going to, if he's got proof of purchase and we're not going to make him jump through a bunch of hoops, we'll send him another cam. That's just part of doing business. Right. I think that's goodwill. If he does it again, now you're buying it,
okay.
But back to the,
because I think
dowel pin. No, the dowel pin thing is what comes up the most, and so just so your listeners understand, the dowel pin is just a locator. You're using that dowel pin to locate where to put it on the either stock or aftermarket cam gear, and so it does not drive the belt. It is not the driving mechanism of the entire engine. So when the dowel pin shears off, that means your cam gear bolt came loose, and it doesn't. I'm not talking loose like finger tight loose. It doesn't take much, a couple tenths of a thou, and that's enough to walk the gear and shear the dowel pin off, and so you have to explain it to people, and if there's pushback, you almost get to the point where it's like, look, we're not gonna. We got to agree to disagree that it's not the cam's fault. We've been doing it long enough. It's common sense that this little pin You know, that's at max 250 thou OD is driving your engine. Come on,
Right.
you know, have
Things
some,
needs to be
you know,
bolted down. Yeah.
So anyway, it's hard for, we have, but it's hard for somebody to admit they made a mistake. Like usually they're an ASC certified mechanic, and you know, I've built plenty of these engines, and you know, most of the time it's not the part's fault, but again,
right.
if they bought it from us, I mean, secondhand stuff, all bets are off.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Totally.
but if you bought it, and you know, we'll work with you, and
but that's just because they're not torquing that thing down right, or they're not cleaning.
yeah,
They're not
but
prepping,
I mean,
cleaning the
you know,
bolt.
and it a lot of times it's not about, it's about educating the customer so it doesn't happen again.
Right.
You know, and
I mean,
and you know, like I said, we might. I've been on the other side, and I know when a company's jerking me off and making me jump through all this shit because they just basically want me to go away.
Right.
And I just make it a point not to give them my money anymore.
Right,
you know, and
right.
so a lot of what we do as BC is filtered through what I experience.
Right.
I'm not saying it's right. It's just
The way you do it.
fuck, my name's on the building, you know.
Yeah.
So so that's how we're going to run it. I'm not saying I'm always right. I take a lot of input from my guys. So you know, we try, and it's common sense, you know. You know what's right and wrong, and if a housing bore of a rod, of the big end of a rod, is blue from heat, I guarantee you it wasn't the rod's fault that it broke, you know.
It's not on you.
You know, or the bowl or whatever they're trying to blame, you know. You're like, hey, what were the clearances? I'm an ASC certified. That's the number one off the list, you know.
No, you don't get any kind of info.
Because we try. Well, what would you recommend we do on the next build? I say change mechanics. Well, I'm the mechanic. Okay. You know, now we're getting somewhere.
Man.
So
like, I don't even want to. I mean, every generation you're going to have people who just have no clue. But I feel like you were frontline for talking to all these people, Sport Compact, from the beginning, right?
Right.
And so, would you say that today, dealing with people, with the internet, with every bit of information out there, do you feel like people had more information back in the day than they do today?
Well, I think. I mean, no. I think they have more information today.
But like in their brain.
But they have too much information to make it. I mean, you can talk over people's heads.
Right.
But if a guy wants to talk flow figures on his heads and all of that stuff, then sure, we can play that game. But if I ask a guy, well, I'm not gonna recommend a cam until you give me the flow figures on your heads. We're not going to sell a lot of cams. It's kind of like the same thing. If I tell you to give me all of the factors of your piston and everything for how much horsepower this rod can handle,
it's too much.
you know, you lose the sale. And so
I feel like there's some people taking advantage of the wealth of information, but I feel like a lot of people I talk to, it's there and exists, so they don't even they don't need to like absorb all of it because they know they could pick up their phone and
and again, the new, like anything new, how to. We have another shop where we have the dyno and we built a full engine shop, and it was like, not that we don't want to build engines because I don't want to compete with our customers.
Right.
But we definitely need to R&D. But if you went down there, there's only a K series and an F20 for Sport Compact, and everything else is is side by side. So you know, but
I think you've done all the R&D.
We don't need to R&D, you know, and that's another thing with new markets is you know, imagine, so we start BC in 06, and then by, you know, in 10 years it's kind of on autopilot. There's really not a lot. We have the strokes down for the strokers. We have the cams down on all the specs that work. We have the valve springs. We got the retainers. You know, it's kind of, you know, the engines aren't, nothing really new. I mean, the VR38 came out, but everything was pretty homogenized. You know, it was I could, you know, so I was finding myself kind of like struggling to
you got bored
to I got bored.
Yeah, you got bored.
I was struggling to get in, to be more invigorated, basically.
Because you need to be you love it, but you need to be excited about it.
Right. I mean,
think the races are exciting.
A day at the racetrack is always the quickest day. I'm always like, whoa, it's 5 o'clock already.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that, but imagine just you're doing 2Js, SR20s, 4G. You're doing the same thing for like 10 years, and it's just. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing.
No,
we set it up. I mean,
I understand.
Part of the other thing was what we did at Crower. If you look at a Crower catalog, there's probably 30 pages of small block Chevy cams. How do you decide what you want? I mean, yeah, you want to tailor cam and that, but we're West Coast, so this will make sense. In and out style ordering. You can have 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. You could have stage 2, 3, or 4. Stage 2 doesn't, you can run it with stock valve springs. Stage 3, you got to change the springs, slight mods. Stage 3, full race. And that works. Now, yeah, we do custom stuff for certain people. But
right.
You can, cam wise, that was the thing with what my dad would do. A guy would call up, and yeah, he's a sprint car guy, 13-to-1 compression. And he says, well, give me the flow figures of your heads. And the guy's like, I don't have it. And he's like, I can't recommend a cam. And so he'd go call Comp or Crane or whatever. And so I was always like, nah, we don't want to, if you have CC volume and flow and everything, sure, we can work with you on that. But if you're just wanting a custom cam to be different or think more than we do, because we're not going to put out our 4th best performing cam.
Right.
Our catalog grinds are what we found work best.
The best, right?
Through a lot of R&D. And so, if you want to do something different and it doesn't work, that's on you.
Yeah.
And that happens. But I probably should have just got one of your catalog grinds. Yeah, but you still can if you're not happy. But you pay double for your custom. Waited 8 weeks. But good job. But. Yeah, there's a lot. The internet guys. But it's twofold. You got to look at it both ways. The internet is power. I mean, if you're not on the internet, there's a lot of companies that don't. They might have an internet site, but there's no information on it.
Right.
Or they redesigned it to where it's so stupid you have to know the part number to find it.
Oh, I hate those.
And so we have two. We have our Shopify store, and then we have our OG. We call it the OG HTML site.
Right.
And that's where all the search is.
Right.
And so I get the cold callers calling me, hey, we noticed on your SEO that you weren't high on camshafts. I said, why would I want to be high on camshafts? I get every Tom, Dick, and Harry calling on their Volvo or whatever. Right. I don't want to be camshafts. But I said, you on a computer? Google 2JZ camshafts. Oh, you're number 1. Yeah. That's what we want to do.
Yeah, right.
So we want targeted search, but we want to be, I know how I search, and I'm not looking at the ads, so we don't buy ads.
Right.
I'm looking for the organic, because that pretty much says you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
And so the search, so the internet, that's powerful. That's powerful, but it's too powerful sometimes where a guy calls and you just he was in a forum or whatever, and he's regurgitating the same shit you heard 3 weeks ago from somebody else, and it's just like, what do you want to accomplish right now? What are you calling about? And so yeah, it's you get that.
But I get that. I'm talking to people and they're just telling me about their build. I don't even know how to. Exactly. There's you get this spider sense. You're the hairs on your back or whatever it is, but you get this sense that this person has no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
They just wanted to call you to sound cool or something and you're just like, what do you want?
Well, that's why. I mean, a lot of times I try not to give out my last name,
right.
And that's not I don't think it's important. I don't feel the need to have to throw that out there. 2, it brings up in the old day, in the Crower days, it would bring up I would have to start talking flathead Ford.
Oh,
You're
right.
oh, so you're Bruce ran flat. So I get the nostalgia pull, and so I just always grew up not doing my last. Not trying to. And I think a lot of it was just me not trying to throw it out there. And if I do it now, then I get the long-winded. Then they want to tell me the whole story. And then I get the guys, well, hey, I guess you'd be the guy to ask for sponsorship. And I'm like, we're going to go there?
Yeah.
After talking to you for 3 minutes?
Let's talk about that. I mean, yeah, that's something that I talked to Lisa about. And I mean, it's like, I feel like so many people have no idea.
They don't.
What it is to actually have and obtain and cultivate sponsorships properly.
There's reasons I have guys that transcend crowers because they do what I expect,
right?
Or they go above, what I'm expecting, but you get guys, the whole sponsorship deal is just a wide open. First off, because I'm not going to sponsor unsolicited per anybody,
right?
Unless it would just happen to be something that the stars would need to align where he's pitching something that I'm already thinking about.
Right.
And that's happened. Timing has been perfect.
Right.
But getting a guy that's, hey, can you sponsor me on my B series? It's like, what are we going to gain? Are you going to break a record?
Yeah.
It has to be something out of this world for a B series, a 2J, anything that's played out.
Because you're selling them anyways.
Yeah, I mean, we've established. I mean, how long does it take to say, hey, we're in this game for the long haul? Our products work. I mean, if they didn't work, you could fool them for probably about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And companies come in and they just pump out some shit.
I don't even think that anymore.
Well, not with the internet.
I think with the internet and with the people talking, I think.
Well, it's with social media and that kind of stuff.
You can't get far.
And you have to kind of, and that's the customer service thing too. Is you can get called out.
Yeah.
And that's not a good look if what they're saying is true. I mean, obviously people can bullshit with the best of them, but. Right.
But as far as sponsorship,
we had a funny thing with the internet. I'll just real quick we didn't follow through with the guy at Crower, and this is when the internet just came out.
Right.
And he's like, "I'm going to do something, and you're going to regret it." And I was like, "I can't help you."
Right.
I've gone up the ladder, and I'm just getting too much pushback, and all I can do is this price. It was a fair price, but it wasn't what he wanted.
Yeah. Right.
He's like, "All right." He's like, you got email, right? And I said, yeah. He said, what's your email? I said, brian@crower.com. So the next day I get a link. He's all, click on this. I was the one talking to you yesterday. I click on it. It's crowersucks.com. And it has the whole,
story
pictures. And, and I'm like, first off, I'm like, wow, this is power of the internet.
Put a lot of energy into that,
yeah. He proved his point.
Yeah.
He definitely got my attention. And I call, hey, Dave, my dad's, Dave, come in here, check this out. What the fuck's that? I'm like, this is the guy that you didn't want to give the free cam to. And he said, watch, and this is it. What do you want to do about it? He's like, well, what's he doing with it? I said, he's on every forum right now, throwing the link out there. Yeah. Are we going to lose sales over it? I don't know. But it's just it's a good laugh at our expense. And
right.
so I reached out to the guy and said, hey, good way to prove your point.
Right.
Let's get this thing off.
Yeah.
We want to own that domain. And it worked out, and he got what he wanted. And I know it works in today's world with like Twitter, airlines screwing you on flights, and you're like,
right.
come on, Southwest,
cancel culture, right.
and they get, Bud Light's going through its act.
Cancel culture, yeah.
But one thing that sucks about having not that I would do it anyway. I don't really post. Personal stuff's personal stuff. I don't really do that. But I have an Instagram account that's just Brian Crower. I just got it because I don't want anybody else to have it. And so it just sits there. It's dormant because my email was brian@crower.com. Easy, right? And then I go to brian@briancrower.com. I just like
should have been Brian Crower at briancrower.com. That would have been just
no, that would have been a good one. But it bugged me. It was long. People would mix up the I or with the Y and the I. And so I said, look, I was talking to my web guy, and I was like, I want a shorter domain name. I want like GoBC. Yeah. And I'd look, GoBC was Go British Columbia.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of, I was kind of like running, BC was obviously gone. And I said, well, what are they doing? They're running our parts. Okay, we'll try runbc. It's kind of like a run DMC.
Yeah.
We did that, and then that's what we use now.
Have you done shirts like that? Have you done run?
We haven't done. I mean,
why not?
Well,
run BC.
It's not the 3 letters, so the acronym would be wrong. DMC, BC.
I get it, but you could spread it out, and
you could do something with it. I mean, if they're still relevant, I guess everything, it's all coming back around.
It's 100% coming back around.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, back to the today's customer is definitely more demanding. We sell on eBay. That's a if you don't get them a tracking number, you get 1 star or whatever it is.
It's brutal.
So, a lot of we have probably 3,000 part numbers, and so trying to keep everything, everything on the store that's in stock has to be in stock.
Yeah.
Because if we have to. First off, if we lose the sale, I'm going to be pissed. If we don't have it in stock, I'm going to be pissed. Right. So second of all is I hate, having to refund people. You let them down, you get that. It just everything. There's a lot of little things involved that a lot of companies don't. They take it for granted. Oh, just refund him his money. It'll be okay.
Right.
Well, the guy's got a bad taste in his mouth now, and I would, oh, fuck, I needed these rods. I got to make a race. Yeah. And now you're telling me 8 weeks? And I've already searched, and I was loyal to this brand, and they didn't have them, and you said you had them, and now you don't have them. Yeah. That's to me that sucks. Yeah. From a manufacturing and a selling standpoint. That's not what you want to happen. So there's a lot of ballet going on between inventory and in stock, and the website. A lot of people. It doesn't. It doesn't lie. Right. The nice thing about website, different than print, is we used to print 50,000 catalogs. Right. And I did the catalog. And I would labor over this catalog. And as soon as they printed 50,000, I'd open it up. First page I opened to, I'd find a typo. I mean, not all the time, but it just seemed like that.
Wow, man.
Now we have a typo on the internet.
You just go in and change it.
Yeah. Done. We've had guys where they're like, hey, it says blah, blah, blah. And that's wrong, and he sends an email, and then we'll fix the typo, and then he'll call, and if I get the call, I'll kind of fuck with him, and I'll say, "What are you talking about?" And he goes and looks. He's like, "You changed it," and I was like, "Maybe we did. Maybe it was right all along." And so it leaves a little doubt with him, but I mean, the customers are also our best. Proofreaders, they'll call out mistakes. Some of them are like just petty.
Isn't that wild though? That people are that like detailed.
But I mean, I kind of flip it and say, geez, if they had, they obviously had the time to point it out. And so, I mean, I want everything to be as perfect as possible. So, I mean, I don't say, look at this guy, but, sometimes you get to the point where it's like, how much time do they have?
Right. They have a lot of time. If they're on the internet that much.
And the phone, that's created a lot of, you're at a stoplight and you're looking at your phone, and so what are you looking at? And so you don't have to be in front of a desktop anymore to get a good experience. Now with 5G, everything loads faster.
Driving down the road, everyone's just driving down the road.
I go to the stop. I used to be like, oh fuck, yellow light, can I make it? And now I'm just like, let's just stop and answer a few emails and knock out some work. While I'm sitting there and not get a ticket. And so, the internet, but. We do sell international, so I try not to, but and it pisses my wife off because I'll be on my phone on like Sunday, And she's like, why, why are you doing that? And I said,
It's
well,
Monday somewhere. Yeah.
I said, it's that. And then I'm going to have to answer it anyway.
Right.
So if I just knock it out while you're playing with the dogs or something, I mean, who cares what I'm doing?
Isn't that
you
wild?
know? It'd be one thing if I was like, off on, porn or fucking something stupid.
Yeah.
But,
you're answering.
I'm trying to, and it is,
Life's a balance.
she was a big supporter of me doing our own thing. And so having her believe in it made it a lot smoother also,
that's like
huge,
and
yeah. So, it is our business. And so I try and tell her, hey, I'm working for you right now. You're 50%. So try and mix it up, spin it around. But, it's good. I think I'm not worried about EV vehicles. Now will we exist in 50 years? I don't know.
Probably, man. There's nostalgia. I think all the nostalgia stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to look at look at, like I said, the small block Chevy came out in 1955 and is still relevant in 2023. So, it's just, it's going to be a question of where can you run these cars, because they're definitely, polluting the world,
EPA is coming for you.
I mean, our poor little 2J is killing, trees in the Amazon.
That one 2J in that guy's
in the meantime,
car.
China and India are just pumping it out.
Yeah.
And we're, that's a
whole nother
podcast. Yeah. So,
but I wanted to touch back on a couple things. I remember that we were talking about sponsorships, right?
Right.
And I remember we were with Matt Van Kirk, and we were struggling, and we did that whole year on 40 grand. I think we did a whole Pro 2. We did a Pro 2 year on 40 grand. 4 races, but still. And I think we did the Pro 1 year on close to that, maybe a little bit more. But I remember we talked to you on our Pro 2 year, which is Pro Spec now.
Sure.
And you said, "Yeah, no." You said we'll take care of you, but no, and when get Pro 1, then we got you covered.
Right.
So it's like that's something that's a big deal. If you're not the top 30 drivers in the world. You know what I mean?
Well, and I mean there's a lot of guys that will run the Pro Spec or Pro 2, and then you work with them, and then they run a couple races, and the dad loses interest, or whatever happens. The money dries up, and then it's kind of like, okay, well, at least we didn't just give it to you, but the Pro 1, you have a little more commitment, you're on a little more pro level. Obviously, you're getting more exposure, but we do believe in the grassroots,
you have a support system for
you can sponsor Frederick Osbo, or James Dean, or Chris, or any of those guys, and you can also sponsor Dylan Hughes, Rad Dan, and those guys are more like especially like Dylan's got a swap. Rad Dan's true to the fore, and so, he's got that grassroots kind of privateer kind of mindset. Forrest Wang, same kind of gig. So we like those guys. I mean,
but you're working with them. I don't want to discourage people, but you're still working with people. Like I was
we don't tell them no.
No, you still worked with us on a level. Getting into it, and it builds, and I appreciate that because it builds a relationship for these teams that are coming up, and if they put the work in, because it's hard to go through Pro Spec and get to like Pro 1. So you put the work in, you're at every event, and you get there, and then it's like almost like it's a cool little reward for just like, all right, cool, like things get a little easier the further you go.
Sure. Right. No, and I get it. Like I said, I grew up in racing. I know racing's expensive. If we can help out product wise, the guys that ask for money, that's a definite no. Right. I mean, I can definitely count on my one hand how many times we've actually paid. Like dollars. So
and that's got to be the higher level of
and we're getting a lot more
ROI.
I mean, we're talking like personal services deals, where we're on helmets and that kind of stuff.
And you've also taken care of you. So you've taken care of me on parts for builds that I've done throughout my career. But I've always been with it's with like Honda Tuning. I always had
Sure.
some sort of return on investment where you were in the magazine. I know you took care of me on the Motor Trend show, where you're in the Motor Trend show. We're putting the cams in the thing. We're talking about them. And this
well,
type
and
of thing. So there's always,
you stay relevant.
Yeah, right.
You know, and so that's important. Like, you know, I've had guys that I haven't heard from in 20 years ask me for something, and I'm like,
right.
I mean, I'll work you a deal, but
Yeah,
I'm not going
right.
to give you anything. But yeah, the sponsorship. I mean, it's like we never did YouTubers. Like I never, because
really?
I don't watch. I'm the guy that complains. We have every streaming and movie channel known to mankind. I can't find anything to watch, and it doesn't dawn on me to get into YouTube. I'll watch
Right.
YouTube on my phone if I'm trying to learn something that I need
Right.
but I'm not just going to watch something on YouTube just to learn something new.
Right.
There has to be a need that I'm watching YouTube. I'm trying to find something.
That's like, I mean, I feel like that might be a big demographic of your newer customers is
Well,
all
they
going
are.
to be on YouTube.
They
yeah.
are, and that's why we want to do some how-tos, you know, how to install, you know, maybe do a one on the dowel pin. Like, hey, you know, look, here we have a 2J here. This is what's happening. This is why your dowel pin's shearing off. And then that way you get a guy on the phone and you're like, hey, I'm going to send you a link, and it's got a half hour. I don't want to spend a half hour telling the guy he's wrong, but I can spend a half hour on a link.
Man, you could probably do that in 10 minutes.
Do it and have it done. It's in the can. It's done. Hey, go watch this link or
Yeah.
go watch this YouTube how to or why. You know, why explained. You know, here's why it did what it did. Those are all good stuff. It's finding the time.
Oh, it's,
and then I it's not that I'm not comfortable in front of the camera. I know I have to be the face of the company.
Right.
So I don't mind going to the races. I just hate being on camera talking about it for some reason.
It's not. It's
So
it's generational, right? Because this is honestly, this is hard from it. You know how much I've been on camera. I've been on everything for AMTV and Fast and Furious or whatever. But even like this, like populating the social media and all that stuff, it's still not like super innate for me. Like it's not like I see some of the younger generation they're just like even on Van Kirk's team, that was all a young team. And we would go places and they would check us into different spots. And I was like, when did you even do that? Like, I'm having a conversation with you.
Right.
How did you even you made 3 posts and, you know, like.
Yeah. But they're necessary and we need them for new stuff. And so the how-tos, you know, think about it. Like if we're the only ones that have Polaris cams right now, so we should have a how-to on Polaris cams.
Totally.
Now, when somebody else has cams, some other company has cams, and they'll be coming. We have the dominant SEO on how to install those cams. So we're getting branding on them watching Brand X, but they're watching our how-to on how to install them because it was really thought out. It wasn't just you know. But that's the thing is it's and I'm talking to I'm friends with Paul Yod, Injector Dynamics, and he's doing the same thing. And it's like, I'm the one who has to get in front of the camera, so I'm dragging my feet, and I'm like, I'm in the same boat. I want to have somebody else do it. And I have, so my 13-year-old daughter, she's like on TikTok all the time. She got no problem, you know, doing it. But think about like
my 9-year-old's on some stuff, you know.
I'm kind of thinking like, okay, here's a 13-year-old girl, and she's going to do a how-to on how to install the cams. And obviously, you know, I don't expect her to install the cams. We can cut and edit how and make it look, but it's going to get to the point where it's going to be like, look, dude, if a 13-year-old girl can install the cams, you can install the cams.
Yeah,
so it's that kind of confidence.
That's a good idea.
So you build them a little confidence saying, oh, you know, not that a girl can't do it. But a 13-year-old girl is installing a set of 2J cams, but she's showing you how to do it so you can do it. And then it kind of lets your guard down. It's not me talking over your head. Right. And because I'll have a tendency of doing that. And they're like, hey, you know, you just went way sideways on something that probably didn't need to be.
You know who has pretty good install videos you should check out if you get a chance to look at them is Officer Dan.
Oh, yeah?
GK Tech.
Okay.
So he just
I need to look at some. I don't want to be the face, but
because they're funny, they're like a little funny.
That's what you need.
It's disarming, and you just watch them.
This generation has a low attention span, and so you gotta hook them real quick,
right?
You know, and if you don't, they're lost, and then probably just moving on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know, and
But
so,
that's okay.
but like YouTubers, we didn't, and this was before he was drifting. Adam LZ,
Yeah.
he hit me up and he's like, "Hey, we're building a 2J," and I was like, "Who are you?" And he's
Right.
like, you know, and he's like, "Well, I'm on YouTube," and then I kind of look at his Instagram, I'm like, "Fuck, he's got like 2 million followers." And they're like you look at his posts and they're like 100,000, you know, not just I bought 2
Actual
million followers.
engagement.
you know.
Yeah. Right. Organic
And so
engagement.
I thought about it and I said, "Hey, let's do some stuff." And the thing is like if you're doing 2J, it's hard to gauge. Like, is it because we were working with Daigo,
Right.
Turk,
Oh, right.
you know,
like what's your
drag guy? You know, what is bringing the, you know, was it a tech video, that real, you know? So it's hard to
kind of
you know,
all,
and I don't want to. I'm
sure it's all of it.
I get when I'm buying something, they're like, "Where did you hear about us?" And it's like I don't. Usually I lie on that answer anyway. So
Yeah, right.
so we don't do that. I don't ask anybody on the phone. So we don't really know where the ROI is coming from.
It's just working.
You know? It
Yeah.
just works. I mean, I like Instagram because you can actually post and make 10 sales that day on what you posted. And you're like, okay.
I know what I did,
I did.
yeah.
I could see it, you know, or you can see you're getting phone calls on something. I don't believe all the metrics on it and the analytics on it, but a sale is a sale.
Sales a sale.
And
right.
and so that's cool. I like that part. You know, a lot of people nowadays, if you're saying, "Oh, who's that company? What do they first do?" They don't get on like LinkedIn or go to the website. They go to Instagram, see how many followers they have.
100%.
You know, and if you're
Yeah.
like 530 followers, I'm bullshitting.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm caught. You know, so I make a point.
That's what's
I have-
funny. That's what I'm interviewing all these people who are like record breakers, and I mean, you see, like, I don't know, you see like Lisa's wall of Wallies,
Right.
you know what I mean, and she's got
Impressive.
a stack of them. It's impressive, but it's like her presence on Instagram is, I don't know what she's at, 3,800 or something like that. It's like
right now,
but
is it does, I mean, because in the at the bottom, at the end of the day, it's profit and loss. It's not net sales. It's not Instagram followers.
No,
I
it's
mean,
none of that.
and I'm not saying this as a greed is good, you know, kind of mindset. I'm just saying to be sustainable, you have to make money.
You have to make
You're not
money,
going to
yeah.
last long. I mean, that's the thing with racing is you want to make $1 million in racing, start with 5 million. You know, that's how it works.
Right,
You know,
I
and
understand that part.
so
I think my point to that was that there's the older generation that's relevant. They're not relevant in social media.
Sure.
Well,
Well,
they almost don't care about it. I think that's part of it.
And that's their prerogative. And
Right.
a lot of, I mean, there's guys like, I'm like, "Hey, what, you know, I'll tag you in a story," and they're like, "Oh, I don't have Instagram." I was like, "Okay," you know, and that's fine. You know, I'm not
Yeah.
going to say what.
Yeah,
What are you,
literally
stupid?
today driving down here, some guy pulled up to me. He's like, "You're really moving in that bus." I was like, "Yeah, I did a Duramax swap on it. I got a bunch of deletes and whatever. Sorry, EPA."
Yeah.
He was just like, "That thing's awesome." My guy, I do a video podcast called Burning Tires. It's on YouTube. He's like, "I don't even know how to get on YouTube."
Right.
And I was like, "Look
So
at this
he's
guy."
not your customer.
I was looking at this guy.
Right.
He was like in his.
But maybe
I
he
know.
goes to YouTube tonight and he checks it out and he's like,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you know, so you never know.
You never know, right?
You know, and
Yeah.
that's what I try not to judge events. Like you go to events and say, "Oh, this crowd's weak," or they're not asking the right questions, or the foot traffic sucks, or whatever you could complain about. It's raining, you know, drag races and raining doesn't work. But all it takes is a couple people to buy a stroker kit.
Yeah.
And then you've got all that branding paid for, you know.
Right.
And I think, like I said, I think it's important to get out there, you know, and do that.
And I think it's evident you still love doing it. You still love going to the races.
yeah, I mean,
still love
you know,
being there.
it's kind of a, I mean, the COVID thing, that was an interesting thing because a lot of, you know, sales went up.
Yeah.
And we didn't do any events. And so my accountants are kind of like, because they always try and, you know, their job is to make that profit and loss as big as possible. So they'll always give me suggestions. And one of them is they're not anti-event or race, but they're saying, "Hey, that money is, you know, do you need to go to that one? Because that one ends up costing with hotels and, you know, all the shit. You're looking at $7,500.
Right.
And is it worth it? And to me, it's like, yeah, it's worth it if we sell 2 kits. Problem is you're never going to know. I've been to events that are like jam packed, giving out stickers, lanyards.
yeah.
It's great and nothing. I mean, you
yeah.
don't. So, but I don't know. I mean,
But
maybe
I
they
think
got a lanyard and they're 12 years old, and then in 4 years
They're gonna buy
They're
a
like, "What's
Starcher.
this Run BC?" And they're like, "Oh shit." You know,
Yeah.
he's got 250,000 followers. I'm gonna buy some cams from him.
Yeah.
I don't know if it works like that,
Yeah,
but I know people are using Instagram as kind of a status or a clout or a relevance or something like that. So
Totally. Yeah.
you know,
I mean, that's-
Facebook covers the old people. We're not on. I'm not on. I won't do TikTok. I don't do Snapchat. I have the domains, but I don't use it.
Yeah. Right.
Instagram, I make a point, so I have a routine. I mean, I have the same routine in the morning. I get up about between 5 and 5:30,
Yeah.
and making coffee. And as that's doing that, I'm just cruising through who's tagged us, and if
right.
and if something looks relevant. What I've learned is our followers don't like car pictures.
Oh, right.
Only engines,
Right.
Engines or cams being ground, or
Yeah.
engines being built, or somebody walking around a 2J with the gold cam gears. So you start doing what
Interesting.
works, and so I just look for that content, and then if I'm on a plane and I got Wi-Fi, I'm not playing video poker or watching a movie. I'm just going through and saving content. Saving content, because now they're integrated, and so you post on Instagram, it goes over to Facebook, so you're covering. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's free.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be some effort into it, but
Yeah.
I've found consistency works.
Yeah.
So I post every morning. Every
you're-
morning.
so-
I don't care if I'm on vacation. I just
So you're handling all your own social media stuff.
well,
too, then?
because again,
awesome.
that's why I go to the races.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I want to. Well, I think it's important to. I know the audience, so
Yeah.
am I going to farm that out? I mean, again, it literally takes me 5 minutes.
Right.
I make sure
I think that's refreshing to hear, because I know
it's not a lot of work. I'm letting other people do the work. They get full
Yeah, yeah,
credit.
right.
I leave exactly what they said in
Right.
it, and so it works. And our follower counts jumped up. I mean, we're at like 130, which is good for our internal hard parts market.
Yeah, that is good.
Could it be better? Sure. Is it 3 million? No. I want? Again, it comes into that.
But you're doing it, and that's impressive to hear that. But it's you doing it, and from an older generation, you know what I mean. It's like it's rare to hear an older generation who's actually that engaged in social media. So it's refreshing to hear. And I know I struggled trying to find my rhythm in it with everything I'm doing.
Well, I look at it like so it's also integrated with Shopify, which is our storefront.
Right.
And so I get questions from people with items in their cart. So the hard part's been done. They've
Right.
made the decision to buy the parts, and to be able to have that access to them at the last minute when they want one last question
All right.
before they hit buy.
And they're asking you on social media, on Instagram,
It comes through on Instagram, and then or it comes through on email, or I mean, I think it's there's a lot of companies that have big Instagram following in our market, up to over 100K, and they say, we don't answer any of the questions. And I'm like, well, what do you answer email? Well, yeah, we'd answer email.
Same thing now.
I'm like, that's stupid, and I see it. I reach out on Instagram. I figure if they're posting, there's got to be somebody someone is there.
Right.
I don't expect them to answer cam spec or what the bore
Right.
size is if I do this, or what kind of compression I need to run to make this.
Somebody's there.
But somebody's there to say, hey, send an email to Bob, and Bob, because I can tell you're you're asking for something a little more technical.
Right.
So email Bob; he's the guy that can handle this. And now I got a contact,
Right.
and maybe Bob makes a sale for the company.
Yeah.
But if you don't say anything, and granted, I mean, I look at the countries we're from. Iran is in the top 10,
Right.
and I get the funny ones are like, hi. That's the question. Hi.
Hi.
And I think maybe if they knew who they were actually dealing with,
Yeah.
there might be, because I'll say, what's your question? And then most of it's like, I want a job.
Oh.
And I'm sure I've lost a lot of really because Iran is a everybody looks at it like it's in the Middle East. They're really good at building and making stuff, and so the problem is they're just in a totalitarian government and they can't ship to the world. But manufacturing
that's a downer,
right? There's the difference, and so.
Hi from North Korea. Wait,
exactly right. I make really good parts in North Korea. The only problem is only North Koreans can buy them, but they don't have any money to buy it.
Yes.
So that's why we're but anyway.
Shout out to North Korea out there.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point is I don't even know what the point is.
I don't even know what the point is. But no, I think I love hearing that you're that personal with your customers and personal with your social media. I mean, that makes sense. It makes sense why your company is so successful. Well, because it's not faceless, right? Which is but you go to all the events. You're personally.
Well, I think it's important. I just think it's important to have a good presence. Again, I've been to events where guys are just sitting in the corner looking at their phone, or if they do want to talk, they don't know anything. And so, what was the point of that?
But it's evident because
the point.
You've created. I mean, you are a part of all of these engines that have propelled these cars down the quarter mile to set these drag racing records in history. You've created history. I mean,
No, it's cool.
Your parts have been the
it's
first.
It's not a job.
Yeah, I understand.
It's not a job. So I'm thankful every day, and I think, again, I'm 57. How I'm at a point where I can, there's forks in the road and I can go either way. I mean, right now I'm kind of at the point where I've made a decision. Well, I think I'm going to take every other Friday off.
Yeah.
Because I went to Europe last summer. We actually were doing a Turn 14 deal in Barcelona, but we went to Paris, spent a week and a half there, and I realized if you want to see the world, which I do, you can't do it when you're 80.
No.
It's hard.
No,
so
can't.
I want to start checking things off the list, but not pulling out. I can't. Like,
people
say, when are you going to sell? When are you going to sell? Because a lot of private equity buying companies have said, I don't want to sell because I know I have had friends who've sold. They've had to work there for 3 years, and they are forced to watch it be mismanaged into a nightmare to where it's heartbreaking.
And I think you love this company too much. I think you love this industry too much to just.
Oh yeah, no. It's like I said, it all comes back to, do you enjoy what you do?
Do you ever stay a little longer at the races? Do you ever go out and? Because I never used to do that with the teams. We'd always fly in, race, fly out. But I started with Jeff Jones. I started staying an extra couple days. Like I'd see some friends, or I would go out and see the stuff.
We would. I mean, yeah. We would go into the crowd and kind of, mingle with them to get their perspective on what, I mean, because we could go into the pits, but, that's why we try and get there on Thursday. Then that's when we do any of the talking we need to do to people, because I know once qualifying starts and elimination start, that's not the time and place to have a conversation. Yeah. I mean, if they want to have it and they have the time, sure, I'm all for it. But I know to stay in my lane and definitely qualifying and I know how it is. I've been on that end and it's not. It usually doesn't go smooth, and so you just want to stay out of the way and not just let them do their thing. But. Yeah, the hanging out, it's important to get out there in the crowd. I've gone to World Cup finals, and there's a lot of, in the grandstands, there's a lot of money changing hands on side bets.
Yeah.
I've been in those side bets, and it's cool.
It's fun.
I mean, it's all luck. So but I might have a little more information than some dude in the stands. But it's not an advantage because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so it's not like I'm up there.
Insider
sharking
trading,
everybody,
right? No.
It's not insider trading.
And those margins are so close, man. They're running like,
right.
760s, 770s, 765, right? They're at right now with like that range of like.
Right. No, you have to, and the track prep's great, and so you definitely have to bring your A game. And I mean, you could luck into it with some, get the buy run or guys that break and can't make it. But you're earning, the power levels. So our 2J rod has increased in gram weight by 90 grams from 2006 to today.
Wow.
Like if I had an old rod,
yeah,
the gram weight, meaning the amount of material added or left on is 90 grams, which is a lot.
That's because the power keeps.
Because the
going
power,
up and
I mean,
up and
having
up
a basically we rate a steel rod to about, and again, the horsepower thing, I know it's not, but it gives you a perspective. 1,800 horsepower on a 2J to a steel rod. They've gone over, but that's kind of like, if you're asking a recommendation, I'm assuming that you have a choice. And if you're running over 1,800, our recommendation is to go to aluminum rod.
Right.
It's not going to last forever, but neither is a steel rod above 1,800. At some point,
right, aluminum rod's going to do a little better, right? Yeah.
Right. And so yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, this is, like I said, this is exciting. I'm invigorated with the side-by-side. It's going really well. The people are as eager to spend money making those go faster. So it just kind of correlates,
I love seeing that you're passionate.
Right.
Like it's something new.
Well, yeah, you can't fake it. And I know guys that run companies and they run a good business, but it's a business.
No, this seems like
you
fun.
know what I mean?
This always seams fun for you.
Oh yeah. No, the races are always good. It's always good seeing, I've been doing it for so long, you go to the track.
And it's always good seeing you.
Right.
Every time I go to the track and I see you, I'm happy about that. You know, I just I don't know. It's always, even if it's high and by, if I'm running to go get something or go pick up tires or whatever.
Well, we go back and you always see, you see the guys over the years and it's just cool to see him still in the game.
Yeah, it's cool to sit down with you like this and talk to you like this, man.
This is
I love hearing all the stories, man.
Very comfortable setting. It's not, so if you ask anybody else and you're listening, you're like, I don't know if I want to do it. You end up talking over your time anyway. You're just sitting here bullshitting, and it's like you're sitting on the living room couch and you're not aware. Once you get going, I'm not aware. I mean, I do see the microphone, but I know that's a necessary evil,
right.
But you don't know the cameras are going.
Yeah.
So,
but I love it because it's like, you are a part of Sport Compact history, and
I appreciate that.
And
no, it's cool.
And the reason you are is because you're passionate about what you do,
right?
And you're passionate about the people you work with and your customers, and you're passionate about
Well, and I grew up in that environment where Bruce and my dad were on the cutting edge of whether it was the centrifugal clutches or the UFAB manifold, or even doing EDM holes on roller lifters for small block shit. I mean, they were doing a stainless steel instead of aluminum body shaft rocker. I mean, Crowder did a lot of innovative things, and you feed off that, and you see the risk reward type deal that you get, and so you want to do that, and I grew up in a different. I didn't grow up in the push rod. I grew up in the overhead cam.
Yeah.
And so that's my roots growing up. Even though I wasn't an engine guy in my teens and I wasn't a car guy, I got into it just because nobody else wanted to talk about it.
That's wild, yeah.
And to be able to talk about it, you have to know it.
Yeah.
But Sport Compact was cool because I was learning all of it, and everybody else was learning.
Yeah, we were all learning,
and nobody knew that you could get this block out of an Acura LS, and you can get a head from a
B16
Del Sol
or Del Sol,
and all of a sudden you got an LS VTEC, and it was like, whoa.
Groundbreaking.
And I was on this because, like I said, I did a stint at the salvage yard, so I knew all the homies down there, and I would be like, hey, I want all your CRV cranks, all of them. And so we were making stroker kits, with just stock stroke Honda cranks.
Yeah,
it was ghetto, but it worked. People appreciated it. But then Forgings came out, and then we went to aftermarket. And so
that's funny to hear.
No, that brings me back. But but that's the kind of thing, that's what's cool.
Oh, you were just getting them and polishing them and cleaning them up and selling
we were
them.
magging them, making sure they weren't cracked. Obviously, making sure journals, polishing the journals, making sure. I mean, it was a cherry stock piece,
Right.
but it was a stroker,
Oh, right. It was like the the LS crank and the B16
Correct.
or whatever doing
Right.
the stroker setups. Yeah.
Or then the CRV came out with the 22.4 liter.
Oh, the 2 there
Or
was
the 2 liter.
No,
The 2 liter.
Yeah,
The 2
the
liter
2
was
liter.
so the B20. And then you'd have the bore.
The bore, right.
But you'd have 89 stroke versus 87 or 84. We were, for the B, because remember, the B18C wasn't the hot rod engine at the time, it was the B16.
B16 was
and
the
so
hot
you
rod.
could put an 89 stroke, which was 84 and a half stock from the B16. Now you got yourself a stroke.
And you matched it with the rods and the pistons.
Because we're
and
making the
everything.
rods, Jay's
right.
making the pistons, and so
Elmer
voila.
I sat down with Elmer. I did one of the shows with Elmer.
Yeah.
And he was talking about that. He's like, that's the hot ticket, man. It was.
Right. That was. I mean, and so that was cool. And the same things kind of happening in the side by side where these like the engine that's in the Yamaha YXZ is also in the snowmobile Sidewinder, the Viper. So we've got multiple markets, and the sled guys are crazier than the side by side guys.
Right.
That's a little more established market, and so again, it's always new things. And I tell people I am platform agnostic, meaning
Right.
I don't
care.
have a favorite. I know what my favorite engines are just based on what we sell a lot of.
Right.
I mean, those are always going to be
2J.
your favorite. 2J's favorite.
2J's
K-series.
favorite. K-series.
I mean, so, but
What about RB?
I
sell an RB?
Yeah, I mean,
Is
a
RB
lot of,
just a
lot of
special needs
rods
crowd or what?
It is, and it's got the different heads, so you need different cam cores, and so, but the RB crowd is they want to stay JDM.
Yeah.
So they're going to run the HKS.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
more of that's more of a JDM. They want it authentic.
Yeah.
And so we sell it. And that's one of we should probably cut RB26 cams, but it's a legacy engine. I can't do it.
Okay.
So this is one where I ride up against my bean counters and I say, no, we're keeping it. They say the sales don't justify the inventory you're holding. And I say, I don't care.
It's a legacy motor.
It's a legacy engine. We're always going to do it.
Right.
I don't care if I have 5 years worth of inventory. It'll sell. It's not. We don't have milk that doesn't go bad.
Right.
So yeah, Arby's that's one. But again, we'll sell them, but we're not. Am I gonna retire on RB26?
No one is. Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah.
But yeah, no, I just appreciate this talk, and I appreciate
Oh, this
caring
is
about
cool.
this stuff. Yeah.
I did another podcast when we were at a side-by-side event, and we went like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Because there is, and I've been in this a long time, and it's, I mean, I think it's a cool story. It's a lot of history in terms of a lot of different markets. I think it's cool.
It's a cool perspective.
I think it's cool that people want to run our stuff.
Yeah.
I'm honored that people call. I don't think there isn't people call and say, "Hey, I got a stupid question." I'm like, "Look, dude, you took the time to call. Just ask.
Just ask. Yeah.
Just ask.
Yeah. That's cool. No, I feel like just sitting down. This is kind of my way of honoring our industry, honoring the people who have been a part of it. You know what I mean? My friends and family in the industry, and
Sure.
this is how I do that.
No, and you can't. It's hard to. This is a good medium to tell the story.
And it's all pieces.
My wife's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "A podcast." And she's like, "Why?" And I said, "Well, I mean, I'm doing it to. I know I've done them, and I know how it works. And so you just
you're
get to
a sport
talk.
compact celebrity.
Well, and I hate that term.
No,
but,
I know.
But yeah,
I know.
I mean, but I like the OG part of it.
You're a legend. You're an OG.
Right.
Right.
That to me is like you're dealing with. I know those people. I respect those people.
Right.
Not saying that somebody who's new can't come out
No,
but
I
it would
know.
be hard. It would be hard to just start from scratch.
But see, no one knows these stories. Like I didn't know a lot of the story of you
Right.
from your
and to tell it to a lot of people, this is a medium to be able to do
This
that.
is it. This is this place.
In a commercial standpoint, maybe we sell some parts. Maybe somebody listens to it and says, "Fuck, I like what he's saying. I'm going to buy some cams from him instead of these." Maybe I said something that pissed somebody off, and I get unfollowed
No, I don't know, man. It's true. But
life goes on, you know.
This is truth. This is truth, and I think the passion that you have for this industry and these cars and these motors and these people and these customers is evident. And I mean, I wish we could talk more about the drivers from back in the day, but that's established.
Sure.
You were a part of all those motors and all those records, and 10s and 9s and 8s and 7s, and
the fact that I'm still friends with all of them. I don't have. I mean, there's people I don't like,
right? But
I still deal with.
Yeah.
But I try and I try. I mean, I don't try. I treat people like I'd want to be treated.
Yeah.
I can smell bullshit just like the best of them.
Yeah.
And so I try and convey that. It's they're giving us money.
Yeah.
And so I can at least give them the time of day.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean?
Which puts you in a better place than a lot of companies are doing these days. So
that's the thing is we talked about it.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Sure. Yep.
And I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful you take the time to sit down with me.
Cool. Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg.
I appreciate it. Thanks
for coming down.
Yeah, brother. All right. So this has been another episode of Burning Tires, a Buscast. I'm your host, Greg Leone, and this has been Brian Crowder, and thank you for watching me. And if you will please subscribe, like, comment, share with all your friends, and do what you do. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in and continuing with me on this journey of telling the story of the rise and proliferation of the sport compact. All right, thank you guys. See you next episode. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. See you guys next time.